Being 6 o'clock, I'll now call to order the annual budget presentation workshop for the great town of Lake Placid this July 30th, 2025. If everybody would please rise, we'll have a quick invocation and pledge. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather as a town to present this budget to the residents. Please make the information that we receive tonight be fruitful for everyone. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Yep.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. Eva, are you going to do the roll call?
Yeah.
Mayor Holbrook.
Here.
Councilmember Hayes. Here. Councilmember Worley.
Here.
Councilmember Charles.
Here.
Councilmember Eberhardt.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of council, because everyone did come in and meet with us, either myself or with Rachel, or either with Rachel and Eva. So thank you for making time to come in ahead of time. And also thank you for the staff. I just want to give a huge shout out and a kudos to the team because of the hard work that they've been doing, especially with this new budget document that you see before you. This has been a lot of work by our town clerk, Miss Eva, and it's been a lot of input from different individuals. We looked at other municipalities to try to see how they are telling their story to their community to make it where it's easily to be understood, and instead of a spreadsheet that most don't understand what those numbers mean. So that's the document you have in front of you. It is a live and breathing document because it will keep moving as we move through the budget process. But the fiscal year 25-26 budget for the town of Lake Placid reflects a forward-focused approach that balances essential service delivery with long-term infrastructure planning and financial sustainability. This year's budget is guided by strategic initiatives including the Downtown Revitalization Plan, the Comprehensive Plan Review, infrastructure upgrades, and improved internal operations to support continued community growth. A comprehensive evaluation of the town's services has been initiated to measure effectiveness, identify potential cost-saving alternatives, and ensure that staff workloads remain manageable as community demands increase. Investments in personnel, utility system modernization, and service delivery improvements are top priorities in this year's financial planning process. This budget reflects the town's commitment to fiscal stewardship, community investment, and service resilience. Despite rising costs and limited resources, the fiscal year 25-26 budget continues to move the town of Lake Placid toward a more connected, efficient, and sustainable future. You scroll down where you can see some of this information that's in the document. So the budget in brief, our total budget is $32,710,963. Our general fund millage rate the budget is based off of is 3.65. Some of the key fund allocations are listed here through our general fund, the special revenue, enterprise, which consists of water, wastewater, and sanitation, and our capital funds. There are some budget highlights that we will go over more in detail. We have some utility and rate adjustments to secure long-term utility sustainability and modernize infrastructure. The town is implementing, or we've been exploring, I should say, a 22% rate increase. This has fluctuated a little bit since the creation of this document. We're looking more at a 25% increase. We will be able to show what those dollar amounts look like, because when you hear percentage, you think that it's a larger amount than it actually is. However, we will bring that forward. This aligns with preliminary findings from a Florida rural water rate study, and it ensures preparedness for critical upgrades and reserve needs. Sanitation services, a $20 annual increase per residential parcel is proposed to maintain twice-a-week garbage service and invest in modernized trucks and bins. Commercial sanitation rates will also be reviewed to support capital needs, as the department currently operates without reserves, and we have relied on donated garbage bins from Avon Park. Due to rising premiums, the town is considering a lower-cost health insurance plan. It's projected to save approximately $101,777.28 annually. Additional benefits include wellness support, dietary coaching, and optional supplemental plans that pay employees directly for their medical events. We are seeing that there have been minimum increases of around 33% in some areas, in some cases, depending on where the rates fall. We have been actively exploring other options so that we do not have to cut our employee benefits without having other services to offer for them. So this may change as we continue to explore. However, after speaking with Rachel Osborne, our finance director, and having the conversations, we do not believe that that's going to move very much in dollar amount. Fund balance usage. To balance the fiscal year 25-26 budget, unassigned fund balance is being used in the general fund, sanitation, wastewater, and cemetery funds. This decision supports cash flow and avoids overextending financial obligations, while allowing some vehicles and capital needs to be delayed and placed on the capital improvement plan to stay within policy targets. To strengthen internal capacity and continue delivering high-quality services, we do have 2 new positions that are being funded this year, and this will support growing community needs and provide relief for our existing staff. This is specifically going to be seen in the horticulture area, where Harry is overseeing many areas with the grounds and upkeeps, facilities, things of that nature. We have planned initiatives that are already underway. We have the downtown revitalization plan. The funding and staff time have been allocated to support long-term design, public engagement, and phased improvements. We also have our comprehensive plan review, a major planning initiative that will guide the development policy and infrastructure alignment. We have a cemetery master plan, and that's due to the nearing capacity, so funds are budgeted to begin formal expansion planning. And we also have public engagement, where we plan to continue investment in quarterly town hall events, surveys, and communication tools to foster transparency and increase civic involvement. This is a snapshot view of the total general fund revenues. And as you can see through the booklet, when you go through it, and it is available online now, you will see where we go through the ad valorem, we reflect the taxable value, we go through information regarding 2020 to 2025 and the property values within the town of Lake Placid. This is on page 9 for anyone who has that. We've had a lot of questions about the reason why things have happened in the past. From 2020 to 2025, property values within the town of Lake Placid rose significantly, driven by post-COVID demand, limited housing supply, and the town's appeal as an affordable, small-town community in Central Florida. However, over the past year, values have begun to level off, with some data sources showing slight declines in home sale prices and longer times on the market. This shift suggests a stabilization in the local housing market. For the town, slower property value growth could mean more modest increases in property tax revenue, which is important for budgeting public services. In addition, recent and future proposals in the Florida State Legislature to modify or phase out ad valorem property taxes could have major long-term implications for how local governments like Lake Placid the town of Lake Placid, how we fund our essential operations in the event the legislation moves forward. So this is one that we will watch very closely. And again, there are graphs, because some of the feedback we received is that when you get it in a spreadsheet, you don't understand or know what you're looking at. So we thought this was easier.
Can I make a comment, Charlotte, on this, just for clarification on these graphs? And I appreciate putting this together. I just was able to get it at 3 o'clock, so I haven't done a lot of look. But the spreadsheets we got, and also on these graphs where it says the 24-25 period, that's only 9 months actual. The other periods are all the budget or the actuals that came in. So I think, I wanted to get it out there because these charts for the comparison, the first 4 years are good. That was the actual. But the fifth year that you have here is only 9 months. It's through June.
Right, because that's where we're at currently, so it's only going to provide that information up to date.
I get that, but for comparative with other, typically you would either put the budget in there or you'd put your 9 months and what your projected 3 months so that you can at least have 12 months comparison. So I think it's important that right now for the ad valorem, it's going to be a lot higher. That 1,034,000 is only through 9 months. That's going to come in a lot higher. And all of these numbers. So how this should be would be the budget for 2024, 25, or 9 months actual, and if you want to forecast the remaining 3 months, whatever's easiest. But it should not be a 9-month comparison to full years prior.
Okay, note taken, thank you. We'll keep that in mind for future planning.
Yeah, and 'cause this is even, at least on the others charts, it does say through June. This one is more misleading because it would lead the reader to believe it's the full year.
I think they all say through June 30th, 2025. Are you looking at one that I'm not
I'm
seeing?
looking at all these graphs.
Which graph, if you don't mind, which page?
Ad valorem millage, down below the ad valorem tax revenue, 2024, 25.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the graphs are.
And then, so if you continue
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
forward, they do, I see.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. On page 11, I had a note here to actually, Councilwoman Charles got ahead of us, but that it would only reflect 6 months' worth when you go through some of these graphs.
9 months,
I'm sorry.
October through June,
Yes.
right?
Yes, you're correct. On the business tax portion, the town of Lake Placid has historically operated under a flat rate business tax model, with all businesses paying $35 annually, regardless of the size of the business, the type, or the impact. While this approach has offered simplicity, it no longer reflects the diverse business landscape or the varying levels of support and oversight required from the town staff and the services. So here on the business tax, we do have a presentation that we're going to have Ms. Saul Gonzalez present to you. And Saul is in our finance department. She's been conducting a business tax receipt deep dive. She's also a certified business tax officer, so we are very fortunate and thankful that we have her with the town of Lake Placid.
Testing. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about understanding local business tax. a little bit of background and history. Okay, so Florida Statute 205, business tax receipt. A little bit of history on that. Since 1972, the statute became law, now known as the occupational license tax with only 12 sections. Then in 1993, major changes happened, and additions were made that for the Florida statute, and then they added 2025.0315, the ordinance adoption after October 1st, 1995, then levy of counties. Then they also added conditions for levy for the counties, and they added the levy for municipalities. In addition to that, they added 2 more. Today, it's known as the Local Business Tax Act, and there are 34 sections. So we could see throughout the years how everything has changed within the statute. Now, understanding local business tax receipts. First of all, we need to understand what's a business, because there are different types of businesses in town or out of town limits. A business, per Florida Statute 205.022 defines business is a profession and occupation that does not include customary religious, charitable, or educational institutions. So everything else except those is considered a business. So what does a business do? Well, different businesses, they means any enterprise or entity or venture in which a person, which because a LLC is considered an independent entity, sells, buys, exchanges, or barters, deals, or represents the dealing in anything or article of value or renders services for compensation. So it's a broad definition. But there are some exceptions. We have the charitable institutions, educational institutions, and the religious. Those are exempt. Those are exempt from having a business tax receipt. So what is a local business tax? Florida statute defines it in Florida Statute 205.022 as, let me read from over here because at the definition, it says,
Which one is it, Saul? I know that it's hard to see with the,
it's Florida Statute 205.022. I'm looking it up right here, real quick.
local business tax means the fees charged and the method by which a local governing authority grants the privilege of engaging in or managing any business, profession, or occupation within its jurisdiction. It does not mean any fees paid to any board, commission, or officer for permits, registration, examination, or inspection unless otherwise provided by law. These are deemed to be regulatory and in addition to, but not in lieu of, any local business tax imposed under the chapter.
So what that means is that a business tax is the authority that grants the privilege of the businesses engaging to do business in town. But it doesn't replace, or it's not replaceable by other fees that a business may incur. For example, they would need to have the business tax, but they also would need to pay whatever fees the state imposes to get their license. From, let's say, for example, a hairstylist. They are regulated by the DBPR, so whatever fees they assess have nothing to do with the local business tax. So per the town ordinance, there's a definition based on the statute as well. And each of them are similar, right? But the statute, the Florida Statute 205 supersedes the ordinance, because let's say there's something that doesn't, we would have to go by the 205, okay? Next. Benefits of local business tax. Importance of local business tax. What are the pros? First and foremost, public safety. The second, maintain jurisdiction over local businesses. Accountability, partnership. Create favorable opportunities for businesses. Educate local business owners, networking, collaborating, and engaging with local businesses. So the opposite of public safety would be potential endangerment, threat to the well-being of the security of the community. For example, if their business tax would go away, we wouldn't have a way to implement any safety issues. For example, like food processing. Once we don't have it, and we don't have business tax, what will happen is we won't have the authority to ensure that.
Speak here, Saul. Speak there. Yeah.
We wouldn't have the authority to supervise local businesses, for example, that are delivering food. So how do we know if they are licensed or if they took their?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Missing the energizer. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So let's return to public safety. For example, how many of us go to a dentist every 6 months? Raise your hands. Okay, so we go to a dentist confident that that dentist is licensed to perform whatever he's going to do in our mouth, right? So, but if this goes away, we wouldn't have like a second pair of eyes to make sure that those licenses or those certifications are what? Current. Because that's one of our functions and one of our roles when we review the businesses and when we review the applications. We make sure that they are legitimate businesses, that they have all the certifications required or all the licenses required by the state of Florida. So, maintain jurisdiction over local businesses. If the opposite would be lack of jurisdiction over local businesses and the inability to implement Florida Statute 205 and the town's ordinance 9511, etc. That includes code enforcement. That would include whatever ordinance that we have. Once we do not have this tool, what's going to happen? We would not be able to get it back, number one, and number two, we won't be able to implement anything. Number three, accountability and partnership. So we are accountable, and we make our businesses, our local businesses, accountable as well. Our accountability is provide the guidelines, instruct them, guide them, educate them, so that they are in compliance with the ordinances and with the Florida statutes. Lack of that would be increase of irresponsible business practices, performances, or behaviors, because everything will be out of control. Create favorable opportunities for businesses. We do want small businesses and more businesses coming into town, but we want to make sure that it's going to be safe and it's going to be a win-win for everyone. So the opposite of that would be reduce opportunities for local businesses to succeed, thrive, and prosper. Because what would happen is probably the big companies will take advantage or do something if there's nothing in place. Educate local business owners. Uninformed business owners operating in the town. Do we want informed or uninformed? To make the right decisions. Networking, collaborating, and engaging with local businesses. My goal, my vision, and we'll see it later down in the presentation, is to become partners, network, so that everybody, including businesses and the community, will engage to serve and to become part of the community and the town of Lake Placid and see it grow and prosper. Loss of personal, strategic, and operational connectivity would be the opposite with local businesses. So if we're not connecting with the local businesses, then what? Okay, next slide. Benefits of having a local business tax receipt. And this is what the town is currently offering to the business owners. Free advertising. They could come in and put their business cards in here and their flyers, or they could tell us, okay, we're having this event, and we could, share the information. Local PD patrolling and business checks. So our local police takes care of that in different shifts. Fee waivers based on council approval for police, security or traffic control, garbage, refuse and removal costs, park uses and utilities, and facility rentals. So we do offer several perks, if we want to call it, for the business owners, and we need to let them know, okay, this is, if you have your business tax receipt, you may qualify for any of these benefits. And future benefits offered by the town of Lake Placid are to be determined, because we want to continue to encourage small businesses and businesses to come into town. Oh, and I forgot to mention something. Other counties and other cities do not offer. Most of them. I only heard of one that they do training for vacation rentals. So.
Can I just, Charlotte, this is all good information, but is this presentation, I was thinking this is a budget workshop, and there's a lot of people here to start talking numbers and things like that, so I think this is a very informative, and I appreciate it. I'm just trying to see, is there some challenge on doing away with this or something, that why this?
It's that the business tax has always been historically at $35.
Yeah.
In order for us to make any changes, we need to do this annually, and it needed to happen in July.
And it didn't, right?
Right, so if we don't have the discussion now and try to put it out here now, then we won't be able to make changes properly, kind of like what we've already seen with the fees and being able to implement that. So we wanted to be able to present it here to the public, make sure that any business owners that are listening, and then also because council will have to make a decision. With the business tax notices going out, issued annually in July, in advance of the new fiscal year, they've already been mailed under the existing flat rate of $35. But if you look comparison to other entities, that's a very low rate. It's typically done in a tiered structure. So this council will have to make that decision. Although I know it doesn't impact the budget this year, if we don't get ahead of it ahead of time, then we're going to end up in the same boat we're in currently, where we continue to charge $35.
But please, I recall at that budget workshop for the business tax license, we did go through the different commodities and all that. And my recollection for this one, we said put it at 55, just put it consistent. Because that was across the board, and we weren't going to start doing 125, because it was like, how do you tell somebody who's paying 35 today, we're now tripling your, 300%. And I thought we settled in, there was a lot of other fees that we didn't, but I thought the one we did settle was the business tax. But if I question if we're really going to be able to make that decision tonight with everything else we have to do on the whole overall budget?
It's totally up to council. We were presenting it to be able to explain it because these are questions that have come up to us, especially with some complaints that we have received regarding the business tax. So that was the reason why it was being brought forward. Obviously, you all are in control of that. So if you want us to stop this part, Rachel can go right into the other portion.
I'm just concerned on time of, I know that we had those fee workshops, and we spent quite a bit of time on them.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
And for the sake of the overall budget and an increase to the millage rate, where does the timing of this one item fit? That's all.
How would you all like to move forward?
Rachel, didn't we decide on 55 at that budget workshop?
It was never voted on.
We discussed 55 for the business tax.
Yeah,
However,
just the business tax portion.
But we was leading into, it's a process that has to go into before we can change it from 35 to 55.
Exactly.
And it was never officially approved as for the 55.
Right.
With the fee schedule. So it has to be with the ordinance to say,
Right.
we're going from this price to that price. That never happened.
But I thought we all agreed on 55, and we walked away from that meeting with 55, so the next steps didn't happen?
No, because we have to go through an ordinance, so that's going to...
Right, that's what I'm saying. The next
Yes.
step would have been the ordinance, and that
And
didn't
that
happen.
would have been the fee schedule.
I gotcha.
So is this presentation one of those necessary steps?
We're going to start that process as far as going through the Florida, following the statute as far as how you get the business tax, because for years, we always been a flat $35. So now to go back to the tiers, Florida statute say, well, now you got to do these things as far as to change that, to go to the tiers versus a flat fee. So now we got to formulate that in order to bring it back to you to have those two readings to get it adopted.
Rachel, will you go ahead and move to the fund balance?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, before we move on, I think we had a member of the public that wanted to say something about this, and I'd like to hear from them, please.
My name is Carolyn Morrison, 119 Sunset Point Boulevard. I just had a question. I understand this presentation is very nice, but it wasn't on the agenda at all, and so I didn't understand what the point of the presentation was. And if that was the case, then how did we let the business owners in the town know that we were going to be discussing the Business Tax Act? That was my question.
Good points, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put the thing up for me, Eva. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, and I know, I've been an opponent of the business tax, but then the county came on and they're doing theirs now. And I'm sorry, because I don't want to hold things up, but do we know what the county's charging? No.
I think the county was still talking about bringing business tax receipts back. I don't think they actually
They've actually
adopted
done it. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
all the other municipalities does it, and they're not doing a flat fee. They're doing the tiers.
Okay, thank you.
No, I think that there was a good point made. If this hasn't been publicized for a fee increase to be discussed tonight, I don't know how we can continue forward and have a discussion and a motion to increase the fees.
But that's what you discuss in a budget workshop, is you discuss everything. That's what a budget workshop is, so that we did properly notify the public and businesses who participate in business know that the budget workshops are going on where all of this information is outlined.
So what rate have you used for the budget sheets that we have?
The $35.
Okay, so,
And I think what Sol is trying to explain is that she wants to start doing workshop with businesses, so she pretty much just explaining what the future is going to bring. So it's not for the businesses, actually information for you guys, as for she going to start workshopping, training with business, and letting them know about business tax. So it was informational.
Because we have had complaints that the town of Lake Placid charges for a business tax, but we provide no service. In that evaluation, as Rachel alluded to, if you compare, and we do have the comparisons between Avon Park and Sebring, they are all on a tiered, and we are the lowest. And you can do a comparison across other municipalities. I will say that we can give you the information again. However, all of it is in the previous packets that were provided at the 5 workshops that we had on this. So it is already in there. However, we can get it again if you would like that.
Well, yeah, it was in there from, 5-6 months ago, but I apologize, I didn't know it was going to be a discussing item for decision tonight, and I don't think the public did. And I appreciate, as part of everything, there needs to be a discussion, but I think wasn't quite that transparent, and we don't even have charts to compare, except from our memory, and it was spread. I mean, I remember the charts that you gave us was, it was by commodity, and my specific question was, how do you tell a business that's paying $35 today that now your fee just went up to $125? And it was like fairness, and that's where we ended up with, why don't we just do the 55? And I also, you recall that years ago they decreased it, didn't it? Used to be 50, and they decreased it to 35, so you wanted to increase it, back up. But I'm personally not prepared to be able to talk because I don't know what to compare it to. I didn't bring any of those charts that the other towns have.
Yeah, there was no decision for the business tax. There was just information only. So we thought it very important that as we go into the budget process, as far as going to the revenues and the expenses, to discuss the fund balance, like what do we have available and what is our limitation parameters for even setting the budget. So starting with the fund balance, that helps kind of set the stage as far as what we can do and how much we can do. So as I go through the fund balance, it'll kind of put the budgets together, and each department's going to have a part of the funds that coming in. Was it services that we provide, or is it state taxes that we receive, or however that may be? And then after we go through the fund balance, it's going to be a review of each department, and after each department, then the directors will come in and then they will engage for their department as far as why did they put whatever expenses in their budget to defend whatever the salaries or what have you. So this doesn't work.
Rachel, will you pull this down, like right in front of you, the microphone whenever you talk, just because otherwise it's hard to hear, and I want to make sure the public can hear.
Okay, let me explain on the fund balance. So this fund balance actually includes every town bank account, include everything that, was it a CD or savings, and it includes the custom deposit, it includes the restricted funds, debt service. So it's going to give you a big picture of how the town finances is. And historically, the town finances has always been strong and stable. And currently, they're strong and stable. So there's no concerns at this time. But we'll see in some of the grants that the grants kind of put a strain on some areas, but it's only the grants. So in the accounts, on the column A, it kind of lists out the bank accounts, and then column B is account title. And then as of 7/21/25 is when this report was read. So it's a couple days old. So we broke it down, each bank account, into what it can actually be used for. So in the F column, it tells you that this is checking and operating accounts. Then we have our reserves. Then we have customer deposits, which the customer deposit belongs to the customers, not the town. So we got to keep that in mind, that we can't spend customer deposits. Then we have our infrastructure and restricted funds. Restricted funds is restricted by use or restricted by ordinance, where the town can't use those funds for certain things. Definitely not operations. And the J is a grant project restricted. So that is only grant funds that only used for whatever that grant is for. So as we go over, And so I also put in here, because we have a fund balance policy, and our fund balance policy tells us that for the general fund, that we can use 3 months of operating expense less debt service, or 25% of the previous budget less debt service. And the general fund is say whichever is greater. But as we get down to the enterprise, it's going to say a little different. It's going to say 4 months of operating expenses less debt service, or it's going to say 17% of the previous budget. It does not say whichever is greater. However, past practices, we always use whatever is greater. Is it the 3 months, or is it the percentage of the last year budget? So looking at the general fund, the operating accounts is, for our checking accounts is here. And so those accounts come up to about 2.7 million. So in the checking account right now, there is a part for some grant funds in there, 2.7. And so based on the fund balance policy, we can use 2.7 for operations. Now, we have some reserves in the general fund, but the reserves is sitting there for emergencies, whatever that may be. Haven't had to use it, and I hope that we never have to, especially when we don't know what's going to happen with FEMA funds. We don't know what's going to happen with the hurricanes. We just don't know. So the general fund, that is the only reserve account that sits in the general fund. And the rest of the funds, as far as the restricted and the grants, we cannot use those for operating at all. So with the 2.7 that we have in the general fund, 1.2 is the minimum requirement. So the general fund meets the requirement, and that is not even including the reserve. So the general fund is fine. So then we go down to the infrastructure.
Rachel, I just want to clarify, so over to the right where you have it yellowed, and you have 5,139,000, what is that? Is that the general fund operating?
That is the general fund. Yes, that is only for the general fund.
That excludes the enterprises,
Correct.
so it's just the general fund, but it also is including, like,
The general fund includes
you've got the
administration.
pickleball for $699, right? You've got, because when I calculated general fund for the current budget, it's about 3 million. Even though the budget sheets say 5 million, but you got to back out 1.6 for a police station and 699 for the pickleball project, because those aren't operating funds. So then you would bring it down to just what your operating fund. So we can talk about that offline, but I think that that number is calculated on a higher base than just the operating fund.
Well, no, let's discuss it now, because the infrastructure, it has its own pot that's set, and that money is restricted for its use as well. So you can use it for the pickleball. You can use it for purchasing land, building, that for the general use of the government.
Yeah, that's not my question. My question is the calculation of the fund reserve, the 25% in that. That should be off of the general operating fund balance.
Only.
Not, right. So you would take the 5 million and bring it down by those capital projects to come up with, this is our, which the numbers I've calculated around 3,299,000 something. But we can take it offline. Yeah, I'm not saying what you can use it for. I'm saying the minimum balance should be calculated on the operating fund, which shouldn't include
It
capital
is.
projects in
It is. Because in the operation for the general fund, we got the administration, we got police services,
Exactly.
then we have the parks and recreation, we got streets and roads, and we have
Yep.
horticulture.
Right.
So anything that expenses operate out, which is the general fund checking account, that is what, based on the last year budget.
Okay.
So in the infrastructure account, like I said, that is restricted by use. And so then we get to the CRA. The CRA is the same thing, it's restricted by use. And then it runs to the grants. That is restricted, grants only. And this is.
And just to clarify for the public, the infrastructure restriction is because the rules say it has to be used for, certain specific projects, building and construction, or vehicle purchases or something like that. So that's what the restriction of the type of expenditure you can have. And then the same with the CRA. The reason it's restricted is it has to be within a CRA district, and there's other, so it's just,
Correct, that's not
To
restricting
clarify.
that the town set, that's the state, correct?
right, that's, right. Well, that's our CRA, I guess, code that we established, and then the infrastructure is the state infrastructure tax code.
Okay, so then that leads us into the enterprise, because the water, wastewater, cemetery, and sanitation is an enterprise fund. And as we talked about, the 4 months, or the 17% of the previous budget is what the minimum requirement is. So in the water count, the minimum requirement is $695,300. So that is how much the water count should have in the bank account at all times. But when we look at the checking account, we see a couple things going on here. We see that we have a checking account, but the checking account also has some custom deposits in there, which we have to take out any debt service and deposits, and making sure that we account for those funds separately. But looking at this total, it's $569,000 in there, but the fund balance requirement is $695,000. So then there's about another $107,000 we got to take out of that. So that's going to be leaving us about $389,000 or something. So the water count is below the minimum balance. And we're going to get to what happens when this happens. So we're going to discuss that when we get a little further down. And the wastewater count, let's look at that too. So the wastewater count has about 80-some thousand in it. And so we got to account for the deposit, so we take that out. We can't even include the debt service, which is $107 in there for a wastewater loan that is going on right now. So the wastewater is way down. And the cemetery account over the years have had the employees allocated to other departments, even though staff is going out there maybe once or twice a week. It's still not properly allocated, and that has gotten fixed in this current budget. So, but if you take the 4 months, it comes about $13,500 for the minimum balance. So clearly the cemetery fund is doing pretty good, and it is above where it needs to be. And it has about $72,000 in reserves. And then it has the perpetual care, $167,000. This is restricted on only cemetery use. So all the perpetual care is basically upkeep of the cemetery, and it also for expansions or anything pertaining only to the cemetery. Then we have the water sewer capital improvement count. Again, that is only for utility capital. So that is not included in any of the minimum fund balance requirements. So there is no restrictions, no fund balance policy that address restricted funds. Then we have the sanitation count. The sanitation count is sitting in $175,000 in the negative. This account should have more than $182,000 in it according to policy. The sanitation account historically has always had a trend up and down. So it'll regain itself and then it go back negative again. But that's depends on the expenses that he had for the year, or a major breakdown on a truck, or whatever happened. So, but like I said, that's one of the things that the trend has always been up and down on that one. So then we ask what happens when the fund balance go below that amount. So according to the policy, in the event that the fund balance or net assets fall below the minimum requirement, the town administrator shall submit a plan of expenditure or expenses reduction and or revenue increase to the mayor and the town council, and advise of a necessary plan of action to be taken to restore the committed fund balance. And so every time these funds is go down, which is everybody's aware of what's going on now that, okay, so this is nothing new. It does fluctuate up and down for the enterprise funds. So there is some plan of action put in place.
Can you explain the combined water sewer fund with the 327, 369, 511, why those are separate than the separate enterprises? So it's like a whole separate section there for water/sewer capital fund versus taking the water sewer capital improvements and putting it up under each of those enterprises.
So the water sewer capital improvement plan, it used to be one account.
Yeah.
Water and sewer capital funds went into one checking account. And then they say, well, we need some funds just in case to upgrade major sewer and water plants, or you may need it for line breaks or what have you. So we will make sure that this water stuff goes with the water and the sewer actually take care of the sewer expenses. So then those two accounts was formed. But the main one, he can use, the utility director can use those for any capital improvement. But it was just a separation as far as the plant expansion versus just capital expenses.
But if it was up above in the individual areas, wouldn't it help those fund balance issues? So if you just took the water sewer cap improvement and you put it up under the water?
No, you cannot, because it's for capital improvements. So that funds, because every year after the budget is over, any capital or any funds that's left over as a surplus in the water account or the sewer account, it is put into the capital. So once you put it in there, you mark it as a capital expense, then you can't take it back out.
So how do you ever build up the reserve in the other accounts? If every time there's an overage, it goes into this special account? I don't know how you'd ever make these reserve fund balances that are required if you're always going to take any excess money at the end of the year and put it down below for capital improvements.
Well, previously, the water and the water account was really lucrative. I mean, it had a really good balance that it could have did it into another reserve or what have you, but it kept it into the major checking account. But over the last couple of years with the projects or what have you, that kind of absorbing some of those funds, so that's where the reserves went for the water and the sewer. So in order to build those funds back up, he's just going to have to raise some rates so that he can take care of some of the major stuff that's coming in. And that's why some of the grants is actually expanding the lines, adding more hookups to make sure that to build the reserves. Any more questions on the fund balance? If not, we're going to go into the budget. So I guess I can go on the budget and I can do the major expenses, or I can just give you an overview of all the highlights of the major changes. So which one would you prefer? Just the highlights? So I can say that this budget was very challenging to put together compared to the ones that we have done in the past. So, and all of the budget is pretty much bare bone. I mean, it either was high on the list or it was put on there and it had to be taken off because of the funding of how much the budget was. So as I go through it, I'm just going to put the highlights as far as some of the items that maybe we took off or we had to put on. So this one's for administration. And administration pretty much is straightforward. I mean, it's nothing added different in here than previous years. The training went up, but of course we have other things that coming up that affect the whole agency, so. And we got some new software, some grant software and some stuff coming up, so the training has to, so for the administration, the main component here is just training. And of the training part, 187 of that was indirect. So when I say indirect, some of this expense got allocated to other departments, so it could have been more.
So the 20,910, what's that for?
That's capital improvements, so just say, for instance, if something happened throughout the year, lightning hit the building, or one of the ACs go out, then that could be one of the pots that we can use this to fix it.
So that's a contingent amount.
Correct. And for legal counsel, we put something in there because but we had 11,233 in there, but I think that has something to do with the planning component of it, but planning, we go to the next level here, and so now the planning is not in-house, it's a consultant. So you'll see the salaries or the consulting fees went up and the salaries went down, so that's kind of straightforward, kind of shifted costs other areas, basically.
I'm confused about the column that says indirect or whatever. What does that mean? Administrative or indirect transfers?
So we have expenses that go across all departments. Say, for instance, like we have IT consultant that gets split across all departments.
Okay.
So whenever that cost is split, it's in the indirect column.
Okay.
But if it's a direct cost, then it's in the direct, but it's all a part of the proposed budget.
Okay, I got you.
So did you do zoning? I heard legal, but then did you do the planning and zoning? Was that you?
Yes, the
Talked
planning
to-
zone, we talked about the.
Yeah, so I have some questions there. Is, because for planning, we've gone to a consultant, right?
Yes.
And that would be the 72,345 indirect. What's the 15,000 wages then?
Because even though we have a consultant, still staff in-house has to deal with some of that planning stuff and coordinate between the consultant.
Okay. So and I didn't think we've determined this when we went to an outside consultant, but the consultant fees this year are 81,000 and they're going up 33,000 to 114. So what's driving that increase? Because we thought when we went to an outside consultant, based on the rate and some other things, it would be less costs. But now it's 30,000 increase year to year, so there's no wages in there, there's no pension, there's no benefits. I'm trying to understand
That was the quote that the consultant gave us as for the service that's going to be provided, is that is how much it's going to be cost for the planning services.
had that increased from the quote we got before? That we,
No? Because I
Okay.
think the hourly rate did not change. Maybe some of the components of the service changed.
But in prior years, it was 74,000 for all of planning and zoning was 74,000. Next year was 52,000.
now the 52 is 9 months, so the budget, to make a note, is 81,785.
Okay.
That's why that column is misleading, because it's only 9 months actual, not the actual budget.
Okay, we'll go back then to the 74,000. And now it's 114,000?
That's my question. It went from 2 years ago, 75, this year 82, and now it's going to 115, and there's no people costs in there. I mean, I get it, the 15,000, but that should have all been part of it in the past. So that's just why the increase of 35,000 in that section.
If I remember correctly, one of the reasons that we took this planning outside was that we wouldn't have to pay any like insurance and things like that for this outside consultant. And unless I'm just missing it, which I could well be, but in that 74,000, wouldn't we have some insurance and costs and such like that in there? I don't see them in there. Wouldn't we have paid that in the previous year?
So the 15,400 is the only internal cost that is. The 72 is for the consultant.
I understand that. But please, my turn. When you look at that first column, which is last year, the wages is 24,150, and I don't see anything, oh, there's health and life, I'm sorry. There's the health and life of 3655, which coming to this year is going to be 2519, so that's a little savings there, right? And that's notices, okay. And retirement, 76. Retirement over here is only 44. So I guess that the main increase to the 114 is the 72,000.
Correct.
And if I can make a comment, in addition to her flat rate, the additional fees that we were talking about is, if you remember, there was a vote that was cast for us to be able to work with our current consultant on 3 text amendment changes. So that, I believe, was some of, 3 text amendments over the course of the year.
Yeah, but I was under the impression when we said to go to a consultant that it would save us because we're not paying, she's not taking training, she's not doing all the other extraneous things. So I was under the impression it would be a wash, and it doesn't look like it is.
It doesn't look like it saved us that much money in this regard anyway. And this says, it also says indirect cost on that consultant fee, which means must be more of it somewhere else because it's divided across other departments. So I don't know. I'm with you, Joy. I don't think we got the right bill of goods here. I think I might have mentioned that before, but we don't need to go there.
We moving forward? So that concludes the total administrative expenses. Charlotte, did you want to do the administrative?
Lost you. Can't hear you now.
Let me just ask just an overall, because this is going to hit every single area, on proposed wage increases, because it says everybody's wage section is going up. So what is the overall proposal on wage increase percent?
I didn't have that tonight, but I'm thinking it was like 20%.
A 20% wage increase for?
So we did have some new positions. We had position that was open, that was open unfilled. So some of that is a factor in there too. So it's not like, I think the average raise for employees was about $1, $1.50, $2.
So see if I can do somewhat adequate back of the envelope. We have about 57 employees today. I took the sheet that you gave us and backed ourselves out, so 57 at $1 an hour, 57 times 2,000 hours is like 120,000 increased. And if you say $2 an hour, we're talking 200 and some thousand just in additional wages this year.
Not everybody got $2, and not everybody
No,
got...
I'm just saying, give perspective. $1 is this budget is going to go up 100 and some thousand and last year we gave everybody $1. I mean, that was built into our budget, and we hadn't given wages for a while. I just, I was trying to see from the chart you gave me, it looked like it's about a 7.75% across the board merit increase, wage increase. That's pretty impressive. I don't know that we can afford that. When I look at the inflation numbers, it looks like cost of living is going to be around 2.5%. So I think that that's an area, because overall ad valorem has gone up 200,000. Just like we said, you've done a budget at 3.65, and that's the 200,000 that's gone up. And I know everybody's done a really good and a hard job looking at where you can give, where you can take in that. And I just think that that might be another area that's pretty sizable wage increase. And I get it. We've got some people underpaid. We want to get them up, and we've done a good job of getting everybody over minimum wage. But as we're looking at areas, because when we approved the 3.65 at the high end, my comment was it's going to come in at 3.65, because I would have liked to see if it's 3.1, here's what it's been, or something in between. But, you know, we're running into the situation, the school board approved they're going to increase fees. You know, the county's increasing. Everybody, now we're talking here water increase, garbage increase, and that we're going to add increases on the town ad valorem. Also, I'm not there, so I'd like us to continue to look where there may be areas this year that we just can't afford.
So you can't afford to pay your people?
I didn't say that,
Oh, try
Councilwoman
again.
Hayes. No, I said a 7.75% wage increase is pretty sizable in this environment.
Mm-hmm. I think if I remember our budget talks correctly, the wages across the board, if you just took wages out, includes 5 or 7 new hires in different departments, a total of that many people. And my question at that time was, do you really believe, and I'm going to sound terrible here, but I'm going to tell you anyway, do you really believe we can find qualified people to fill those 5 to 7 positions in the particular departments that they were at? And the comment I got was, well, probably not. But if we don't budget for it and we do find someone, then we can't have them. But we also can't continue to operate our departments when they're 1, 2, or maybe even 3 employees down, and then we have people coming to the dais every month saying, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And the answer is always an honest answer, I didn't have time. I didn't have staff. I didn't have people. So I think, you know, I know 7% is a lot, but when you take it across your individual person to person, it's only about $1. And you know, maybe we can cut somewhere else and not cut people.
So just to clarify, I'm not talking about cutting people. Those positions are in there, and I haven't once touched them, and I appreciate adding a couple people to Harry's budget for the maintenance that needs to be done around the town. So I'm not talking one thing about eliminating heads. I'm talking about a $1 to $2, because that's what's built in here. It's a 7.75% across the board, and I know that you'll move it around. In today's environment, you know, those on fixed income are not getting an increase in their Social Security on that much, so it's the taxpayers that are paying this additional. The town of Lake Placid residents are paying the additional $200,000 ad valorem tax. And I'm saying that all other taxes are going up. It's going to be a big burden on a lot of folks. My comment was the 7.75%, which is some people may get 1, others are getting 2, others are getting a lot more. So I'm just saying, I think that can we really afford in today's environment that high of an increase? You know, most companies give a 3 to 4% increase. And that's, you know, kind of where my head is. And that's what we did last year too. So it's not like we haven't given increases for a while. And I know it's not a popular subject, but that's why I was elected, to stand up here and try to represent the people.
I'm also saying I'm not disputing the fact that you're not saying to cut people. My comment was probably missing a pronoun or two. When you're saying that you're going to cut this increase, this pay increase from the people that we have, you're not going to cut any more people, but you're taking money out of the pockets of the people that we have now. And you can't tell me that you appreciate them when you say, I really appreciate you, but you can't have $1 more. That just doesn't settle with me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. I think you're probably right. We probably can't afford that, but I think there are other things in this budget that we can't afford, where we can take the money that we need to have to give to our people, to retain our people in this town in the competitive environment of working, which it is competitive. But I think there are other places in this budget, and I have noted several of them on my paper. I have some notes in the margin too, which I don't often have. But I think there are some places in here that we can reduce, and it doesn't have to come out of the pockets and paychecks of the people that we have on staff now and the people that we could potentially have on staff in the future. Just to clarify.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that as we move through the administrative process, I think we're jumping ahead. Honestly, Councilwoman Charles, you're getting ahead of us through the presentation, so you're asking questions before we get an opportunity to actually present it to you. Just saying that we do have this prepared. So we have from last year, as it was stated, that it was a fair across the board with $1, a little here or more is what I've been told in our conversations with staff, also reviewing in past. We all agreed that that was probably put in, as Councilwoman Charles said, because we were not keeping up with the mandatory wage increase for the minimum wage. Now we are proposing, and it's in the packet, that moving forward, we move to an evaluation and performance-based compensation, meaning it's no longer just across the board. We want people to be properly evaluated, and that is already in our policy. So in our policy, this should have been occurring already and happening. So even if we budget for a certain amount, then it will be up to the directors to go through and evaluate their staff. The way that we've explained it is you're able to evaluate them from a 1 to 5. Everybody can't be a 5. So we need you to evaluate your people properly. So we have an evaluation timeline and process that's in your packet. We also have where we want to tie it into key performance indicators so that they're actually being evaluated on key items that we can measure them on. So it's not just a feeling about, I think Harry does better than Alan. No, we're going to have actual measures where we can look at this and say, this is why this individual deserves this increase. So we do have that in our packet to come for next year. Why it matters, I think some of the comments are made here. It supports accountability. Staff are evaluated based on the quality and consistency of their work. It informs budget planning. Tying compensation to performance allows for better forecasting and resource allocation. It also encourages growth. Employees receive clear feedback, and they also have development goals. This fosters a culture of continuous improvement, which we think is important as we evolve with time. It also enhances equity. Merit-based increases reward individuals' efforts and their departmental achievement rather than applying uniform adjustments to everyone. So we do have that in for next year. Our goal would be to start the process early, so it would be September of this year and carry to September of next year so that we have those amounts properly before budget session next year. Thank you. All right, you're up, Rachel.
Okay, so this kind of takes us into the public safety portion of the budget.
I mean, I know we're not in that mode right now, but I just want to go ahead while we're on the subject and say again that I've heard of 2 people that left for fairly small increases, but if you have lived in this life, if you've even lived, gone to the grocery store, whatever you've been doing, you know that expenses have been going up unbelievably, okay? So I know I'm not in the mode of knowing what everything's going on, but just by interacting a little bit, I know that we've lost 2 people in the last 3 months, 4 months, to wage increases. Now, you say, oh, well, we'll just hire someone else. Well, it's not that easy. No, you have to train them. Now we're asking the person that's training them to do their job, plus train them, plus they have to do, I mean, it's just a defeatist type of situation. We need to retain the employees, not have to keep having turnover, constant retraining of our people that are training them. They don't have time to keep training people. So I think that if you've lived in this world, you know that it's gotten crazy expensive to just live day to day. Everything's gone up. Just to eat's expensive. So anyway, I am not for, I think that staff makes recommendations. They're out there, they see that people are unhappy, or they just, it's not even that they're unhappy. I don't criticize anybody for going to a new job that they get more money to support themselves and their family. I could never say that, but I'd rather not lose them. I'd rather keep them here, keep them in the fold. And I was disappointed that we didn't go to minimum wage earlier than we did. I think historically you'll see that when the state said that you have to have this amount of money to barely live, I thought that we should have done it then. I think Avon Park did, one of the cities did. But I'm just saying, on wages, I am depending on our staff to make recommendations, and I think we should listen to them. Thank you.
If I could make a comment, we want transparency, and that seems to be what everybody says. And then we sit back and we give the facts, and then we're also told that we're still not being transparent. So this is your town administrator being very transparent right now. Rachel will not say this herself, but through this whole budget process, the three who have actually spearheaded this has been Rachel, myself, and Eva, primarily, with the assistance of the chief of police, who has helped us to bridge gaps to make sure that we are presenting a budget. The reason behind that is because Rachel does not have a fully trained finance staff because she experienced 3 new staff members. If you talk to anybody in government, municipal finance, or even in a finance background, we will all agree that losing 3 people in a small town of Lake Placid and putting together a budget is very difficult. Now when you add to that government finance is not like public finance. I come from a public background, and I also come from a federal background, and now on this level, and every level it is different. So to try to understand it is difficult. That's the reason why we put together the booklet to provide graphs and charts so that it was easier for public consumption. We appreciate all the questions, we want them, but I wanted to put it out there because we're talking about staff, and for you to truly understand that you have a very, very dedicated staff who have been here for, if you add up some of the years, for a very long time. Looking for that knowledge and anybody else off the street, just fill the position, it's not going to happen. It will take somebody 2 to 3 years easy, if not longer, to be able to learn the role of a finance director or anyone who's in the finance department. So I needed to say that because Rachel's not going to say that. She needs a huge round of applause. We're talking sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning if we're getting up. Sometimes we're not going to bed until midnight. You do the math. And that is not just Monday through Friday. We are here working for you sometimes all week long. And that is the truth, and that is the reality. But that's because we are here as your public servants to serve the town of Lake Placid at the pleasure of the mayor and this council. So I'm sorry, but that needed to be said. Rachel, please take the floor. Are you opening up the floor for public comments when she finishes her presentation?
I'd rather her finish.
Okay, so we, at public safety, I'm going to get Mark to help me engage in on this one. In this department, I think, Mark, you want to take the lead on this one?
There were, Councilwoman Hayes, if I could make a comment, you had said that there were There were originally 5 positions, and you were correct. We did scale back, and there are only 2 positions that are new.
In our, the public safety budget here, there are the bare minimum requirements currently in. We had 4 additional projects that we had tried to add in that were removed. If you'll move to the first slide, please. These projects that we had removed are an Axon Officer Safety Plan, the continuation of the radio transition to the APX N70 radios, as well as aging workstations that needed to be replaced and a vehicle replacement. These things were removed from our budget. I just wanted to go over some things about those things that were removed. When you're looking at an Axon safety plan, it is there for accountability, transparency, and safety. The safety of the officers. This, you can move to the next slide. Evidence storage is something that we are working on as well with the Axon safety plan. Currently, we store everything on our server at the police department. It requires a separate backup that we keep in the evidence room and requires us to back it up. All the cameras that we use currently at our police department were purchased prior to 2019. Okay, they're old. They no longer make them, and they're aging. We no longer can receive chargers for them or anything else to keep these cameras working. We're doing the best we can with it, but in the interest of transparency and obtaining the body cameras, I ask that you look at putting this back in. Again, the evidence storage, the redaction capabilities as we move forward, redacting these videos is not easy. It requires someone who actually understands how to clip audio and remove audio from videos, also blurring out specific things from the screens. The staff that we had and the person we had doing that is no longer here. With the addition of this TASER plan, this would have allowed for us to obtain new body cameras, new tasers in October, and then every 2.5 years thereafter for the next 5 years. So at the end of this 5-year plan, we would receive brand new equipment as well. It is a little bit expensive, and I did have them re-quote us, and the quote did come in about $600 less. It came in at $34,083.70 for each year for the next 5 years. It would be what it was for. The N70 radios, we had already discussed this. The radios we have are now out of life of service. We have had a couple instances already this year where the radios did not work. The older ones we have did not work. I can't tell you that's not a good thing in law enforcement when you cannot communicate with dispatch. This is something we work with. We do have all our road officers transitioned already, so the guys actually on the road do still currently have communications. And the actual workstations, which I believe was slightly less than any of the others, we are trying to replace the computers in our department that are more than 5 years old in an attempt to keep up with the changing technology and the needs of the department. For those that don't know, we did have issue 2 weeks ago where we lost all computers at the police department. We were struck by lightning, we lost a router, we lost a modem. While our computers were down, our officers could not download their body cameras. Our staff could access no information. We were dead in the water. Everything had to be done by hand. We had to go back to many years ago. Some of our officers have never done this by hand. It's how long ago we had to revert back. We were able to get everything back up and running. We have not completely replaced everything. Our computers are still running very slow because we do not have a good router in place yet. We are still working on getting that repaired and getting VC3 to get us a quote. But this goes back to the Axon plan, one of the reasons that I've asked to put this back in with the cameras, the newer cameras, post-2019, when they entered into the Axon Body 3s and Body 4s, they are no longer built as just a recording device. They're also built more along cellular technology. And the uploads and the data can still be uploaded even without plugging it in. It can be done through our cell phones. It can be done through our Wi-Fi pucks in the vehicles. This could have been something that would have made it much easier. Since we've come back online, officers have had to spend an exorbitant amount of time in the office getting their downloads done. Things they couldn't do before. They're still in the process of catching up on reports. You can go ahead. I'm sorry I continued with that without telling you to change the slides.
Okay, looking at the public safety budget, like Charlotte said, there was some salaries increase in there. Retirement goes with the salaries, health insurance. Other than that, is pretty much, like Mark said, it was taken out of his budget, so.
We are exploring other opportunities to be able to still meet the needs. Mark is working closely with some different initiatives for us to be able to explore those.
Okay. I was trying to write down the numbers. What would be the total if the things that were taken out were brought back in? There was like 3,000 for one, 30,000 for another.
Without the vehicle, it would total 63,000.
Without the vehicle.
Without the vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any grant opportunities? I know that different time public safety
Not for these items.
types of items.
Not for these types of items. I have found some for IT, for the workstations, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to hit the grant window to get them.
And then how many radios? Because last year we did 5 radios. I mean, I know
Last
that
year we
was a-
did 4 radios, and I needed 3 additional this year. And with the price increase, we should have bought them last year because now the 3 radios are almost as much as 4 radios were last year. They've gone up. They're $30,000 for the 3 radios this year.
So this 30,000 is for how many radios?
3.
For 3 radios.
For 3 radios.
I think the controversial question is, what are we going to do on events for absorbing police services into our budget, right? Last year, I think, well, do you know what you absorbed for the Caladium Festival?
Don't have an exact dollar amount yet, no.
I think you had estimated it would be 8,000. I think it was like,
One second, let me look up.
and we said, okay, we absorbed it, but I think now that we're doing the budget, we have to rethink for entities that are making profits, that I don't think we can continue to provide police services for them. And then that's a way to get the trade-off on some of this, where we've been absorbing, you know, for various events, you covering police services, you know, Alan's covering police utility services and that.
7,260
For the
would be
Caladium Festival,
the
you-
estimate, yes.
That's your estimate.
That's a high estimate. I don't believe that we actually expended that much, but yes.
Okay, so that's one then where the chamber actually went to TDC after our discussion and got $10,000. Are they giving us any to,
I have no idea, ma'am,
cover
that-
some of our expenses? But, and I think it was good that we had that discussion, because then we learned from the TDC that some of those entities should be presenting to them, and that funds were going. So I think that that's just another area that we should be having that, you know, I call it the tough discussion, especially if you're a entity that's used to getting the town to cover fees from our own budget, that I don't know that we can afford to continue to do that when we've got a lot of challenges, and especially in your area, you've got 30, 60,000 of equipment that's needed.
That was exactly my thought. I had a note too about the special details being absorbed by the town, that we just can't do it.
Well, I think you're probably right in some extent, but I don't know that the budget workshop is exactly where we ought to cover that. I think that's going to be a case-by-case basis. And I think some of these cases, as we've talked about, being legacy events and things like that, things that I would call a legacy event, an event that defines the town. And an event that brings in 25,000 people, that definitely defines the town. And I know you are not going to disagree with me in that we would need police coverage when that happens. However, who pays for it might be a point of discussion, but I don't think the budget workshop is exactly the place for that. But it does need to be discussed, but I'm not so sure this is the place.
We were going to propose that if you wanted to be able to review the fees, because all of this has been discussed in the fee workshops and everything that's been presented, we really need to make those decisions this year, or else we'll drag it out for a whole nother year, because it's been a year, because the meetings for the workshops started before I came on board for hire, and we're into a new budget. So we missed an opportunity in last budget. So if we need to schedule that, the staff and I discussed it, and at the last budget workshop that we have is scheduled for the CRA. We don't know exactly, we would have to look at it, but if that is something you want us to look at, or we looked at some other dates, Eva and I were trying to play around with it to look before we came in here, we can get that out to you, but we would highly encourage it. That's some of the reason why we keep making the comments about fees needing to be reassessed and looked at, is because we need those decisions made this budget cycle if possible.
So we need to talk about fees.
We need to schedule that one. That's going to be a lengthy
Right, but
conversation.
maybe not tonight, but we need to
Correct.
schedule it for this budget process.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I get you, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you would include waiving event fees in that discussion? Because it does become a budget item. If all of a sudden we're budgeting and you're, you know, under special detail, that we're going to absorb, you know, 30,000 or whatever it is, that's something that needs to be in that budget, because what we found out, it wasn't in the budget before, and he's overrunning the budget.
Now, just as a reminder on that special detail overage that we're discussing, a lot of that is disaster pay as well, not just special detail. And that was something I did not realize we were doing, was adding disaster pay to our special detail pay, which I can see that going under overtime, but not into special detail.
So
Chief,
you
will you
currently
explain
have 30, I'm sorry, you have 30,000 budgeted for special detail.
I did that because if we actually calculate the reoccurring events that we do each year at what the estimated costs are, it comes out to $25,080
Okay, thank
each
you.
year. I added a little extra in case the council chooses to waive fees on something else. That's why I calculated that at $30,000.
There's your radios. And I think the other question I have, and we're not going to solve it here, but it's going to create a discussion, is the $1.6 million for a new police department, and where's that being funded from?
From the infrastructure.
So infrastructure. So today we have a 2.3 infrastructure balance, fund reserve, of which you've got 200,000 for pickleball already earmarked, another 1.6, that's 1.8, and then I think Harry's got 300,000 for lights, so this police station will help deplete the infrastructure reserve. Is that what's being recommended?
So the infrastructure can be used for certain things. Not all things operational, what have you, but police is one of the things that it can fund. So.
Right, right. But what we're saying is the 2.3 million reserve that we've built up over the years, we're going to deplete it. I think that's unaffordable. I think in today's environment, building a $1.6 million police station is unaffordable.
And in today's environment, having a $1.6 million police station to support our police department is absolutely necessary. You have to have a decent police station in order to store your evidence, in order to support your officers, in order to meet accreditation standards, and in order to provide the public safety image that this town is built on. One of the reasons people come to Lake Placid is because they know that they are safe here. And this police station has been approved and approved and approved 3 times. Even in the Bible, 3 times is a winner. The police station is out to bid, and in my humble opinion, we are going forward, not backwards. We've tried hard to go backwards. We've done it with the police station. We've done it with pickleball. Again, 3 times is the charm. Please, let's move this town forward.
So 1.6 million will probably be 2, and they're just asking if there's other options that we've looked at versus building a brand new one. Because
we have gone over all of them, haven't we, Ms. Worley? We have gone over all of them.
So I've not seen in my review of this topic, what would it cost to renovate the current station to bring it to the standard? In 2018, we actually approved this building would also have the police department. The only comment I want to make is up to this point, there's never been the funding source. It was a legislative grant that was going to be originally 1.1, then 1.6, and then the legislative grant changed to a short-term loan, and now this is the first time we've had 1.6 million taking out of our infrastructure reserve, which is why it needs to have a discussion.
The discussion has already occurred. We, possibly before you came on council, because this was over a very lengthy period of time. I don't want to take up valuable time to go back over this, but I can tell you that we had the police station in 3 different locations. We had also a total renovation of the current facility evaluated, and I think that we have beat this horse to death, and I think we need to move on.
Can I make a comment? Anyone through this process, if there is any service that we are providing, and the mayor allowed, he said I could go ahead and say this just so everyone is aware. If any member on council wants to have a topic or a service evaluated, the council member will have to make a motion from the dais asking all of council to vote for staff to be able to look and evaluate. If Councilwoman Worley wants us to look at sanitation services, she will make a motion here and say that she wants staff to go out and evaluate if we contracted out for sanitation services, what that would look like. It would go to all of you for a vote. However that vote goes is what will determine what staff does. So if this is a topic that Councilwoman Charles wants to bring forward, when we have our meetings as we continue forward for next year, we will be able to take a year to be able to do an actual deep dive to find out on any areas that you would like for us to look at. But it will require a vote from the dais, and that is per our charter.
I know that I get to They call it hysterical, but it's historical. Anyway, going back to the years, I just wanted to tell you the history of when we tried to do a new police station. Okay, so it was determined by previous councils we needed a police station. Well, they kind of wanted to keep renovating things, but renovating something is almost more expensive in today's market than it is just to go ahead and build new, because the technology has gotten so, I mean, it's even today, by the time we get it built, it's even more advanced. So it became unfeasible to renovate anything. So we looked at what to do. So we sold. What was decided before was that what we would do to get the funds, part of the funding, would be sell the old town hall. That was around $300,000, a little over $300,000 that we sold that building for. And we took that money. Now that money, I don't, whatever, it got absorbed, but that was supposed to be earmarked to help pay for the new police station. And so then when the Carlson Group did analysis of our assets, which at the time of thinking about selling was the old town hall, the police station, and the fire department, which we own and we'll get back when they build the new fire station. We're going to get that property back. So those were the three properties that we were going to sell to pay for the new police station. So we've got the money from the town hall, around a little over $300,000. Carlson determined that the current police station was probably our most viable sellable property because of where it's situated in the downtown area and because of its use, where it is. So we could get a current price on that, but we will be able to sell that once we transition over, and that's supposed to go into the pot to pay for the new police station. Now, the fire department, that's a big hunk of land down there, and we will get that back. And so, but in the meantime, utilities has decided, and some of our other departments have decided that that would be best used because of our growth to use that for the town and not sell it. It's got great storage, it's got great, position in the town. So what we do with that, but the original plan was not to just go, we had a plan, and that was it. So the first plan was, so we should have, in the scheme of things, around $300,000 already. When that sold, another $300, $350, whatever they came up with at that time, we'd have to have it reappraised by them. And then it's not anybody's fault we're not going to sell the fire station where it is now, but I'm just saying that was all calculated in that. So I hate to be the one that gives the history, but I'm old, so I just give you the history. So I hope that helps explain some of the reasoning in the transition. Thank you.
If I may, at one time they did look at renovating the building we are currently in. They also looked at renovating the old town hall and renovating the old fire station for a police department. They went into what the renovations would cost and what it would cost to move us into a temporary facility while it was being renovated, and every time that we did it, it came out to more than it was to build a new building at that time. I do not have the exact numbers. That was a long time ago, but we did look into that. That was actually what we began looking into instead of a new police department. But when the cost of new construction was cheaper than to actually renovate and temporarily house your police department, it was cheaper just to build new. That's why we moved along this path. And I really don't think that the cost of renovation has went down, and I don't think that the cost of rent for a new facility would go down either. But that is something that was looked into at one time.
Mark, you want to go over the code enforcement as well?
Yeah, code enforcement, I didn't make hardly any changes at all to this over the previous years, as I don't really have the actual numbers that I need yet. I wasn't tracking it. I didn't have it under my department. Now that it's under my department, I've started tracking other things in this so that next year I can give you a more accurate budget. But at current, I believe we dropped the salaries and have dropped almost everything from the previous year to save some money in that.
Any question with code enforcement? Okay. So, Charlotte, are we going into the streets and roads? Or Mayor?
So as Rachel stated earlier, that we are looking at cemetery expansion because the cemetery has almost basically reached capacity. I'll allow Alan to talk a little bit more about the streets and roads, parks, recreation, and the cemetery.
This department did not have a lot of changes either. He tried to put some expenses in there and it didn't pan out, so.
What's the 55,000 paving? That's something that came out then?
Yes.
Is that what that one is?
Correct. He had an arrow lift that was also included in there, but he said that was more of a want, so that was removed. What was that? An arrow lift.
And we had, the pavement plan, I think, was on here and we pulled it off, but we did reach out to Kimley Horn to find out about a pavement management plan so that we could properly plan for street maintenance and upkeep and get an idea of what that's going to look like to phase it, because we're having a lot of the conversations on the county level. It would run us, it would be, the scope of services presented to us was $59,950. They broke it down into 3 key task areas. I'm saying that because if we can find a way to be able to start this at some point throughout the year, we are going to actively look for that. The pre-inspection system development, which would be task 1, runs about $11,000. Task 2 is data collection with a visual inspection as well, and that's $27,900. And then data analysis and reporting comes in as task 3 at $20,750. For a pavement management plan that would, I'll send that out so that council can see what the scope would consist of. We did reach out to other municipalities, especially with Avon Park and Sebring. They both have used Kimley Horn and have both received their pavement plans, and they started doing that, I believe, before the ISBA conversations.
So this is like an inventory analysis of what we have, what needs immediate repair, and then looking forward as like, okay, 5 years from now, we're going to have to do this, 10 years, we're going to have to do that. Colleen, we have excavation point to Lake June Point. They don't charge that much, do they?
0. So what Joy's referring to at Lake June Point, I'm the treasurer, and since it's private subdivision, private roads, we do a periodic road adequacy, to make sure that my funds are okay, and they come out and they tell us the condition of the road, and we do every year, we fund for just repairs that are needed. The sides of the road usually crumble off or something like that. So now maybe this is a little more extensive and it's a lot more roads than 2 miles worth. Agreed, but.
That's what I was going to say, is that Alan and I had to provide them with data. Alan, you'll have to talk on that because that's your area, sir.
Yes, so we had the DOT road mileage data that we have to submit every year, so we went through every road in town, the length of each road, and what this would do is exactly what you're saying. It kind of gives us a better idea of a time frame. Otherwise, it's just us looking at what's the most damage and trying to make that the priority that year. It would be a lot better if we had a comprehensive plan, whether it be breaking the town into, say, quarters, sections, focus on this area for a certain amount of years, then move on, or east, west, north, south, however. I would just looking at pavement, you never know how well it's going to do until the stormwater's hit, and then you see how quickly everything deteriorates. I originally had that $55,000 in there for paving, just for things that may not be chosen for CRA, because I know we want to split up CRA money to get the most we can out of it, and not just put everything towards infrastructure. But that would, we would estimate maybe 2 or 3 roads. We average around 25,000 per road, but we don't always.
If you went
do
from
the
end to
longest
end on a
roads.
road, you're talking about the full extent of a road? I see.
Yeah. So, yeah, we only did a portion of Jackson Street, which was outside of the CRA district last year, and even that was, I believe, 19,000 off the top of my head. So it's the longer the road, obviously, the more you're going to have to devote to it. So 55,000 may only do one road. It just depends on the road you decide to pave at that time. But we are trying to get back to putting everything we can under CRA, just because we don't have, say, money directly set aside for this, because we relied on CRA for roughly the past 6 years or so.
Because our CRA was built primarily for infrastructure purposes. If you look at the CRA plan, it covers infrastructure.
I thought it was new infrastructure, not repair.
Oh, yeah, you did say that, you brought that up when we met, but we've got to clarify that.
We'll have to look at that.
Yeah, we will have to clarify that.
I know that the CRA was formed and the mission is for infrastructure. And I don't know whether repair of current streets would be repair of infrastructure and thus not be a...
That's the question. That's the question.
You think then that would make it not able to be funded out of CRA? Is that what you're saying?
If that's the case, yeah, we'll check that.
Okay.
And I understand, the roads in town are more complex than Lake June Point. Did you go to Excavation Point to see if they would do that?
Well, I just had a quick question on that too. You use Excavation Point, do they then do your paving?
Yes.
Okay, so that's probably why they don't charge you, because they've got your, first of all, it's one street, folks, and it's relatively straight, slight curve, but then they don't charge you to evaluate because they're going to do the repair. This is a master plan of people that don't actually do the repair. They create the master plan, and then we find somebody to do the repair.
Yeah, no, I'm just
questioning the price to prepare the plan.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
and
they not necessarily have the contract to do the plant, to do the paving. We do 2 things with them. One is, what repairs do I need now? And then the second is to make sure that I have fully funded the future paving. Then they come every couple years and they'll do a complete analysis and then tell us, okay, because Lake June Point was built in 3 phases. So just to say, hey, every 20 years you need to replace your roads, it depends on the usage of the road and that. But I am a big supporter of master plans, and I think this is something that is crucial, even for us to do budgets, because we never know how much do we need to spend, 10 years into the future and that. I don't know if the price, is it $59,000? Is that the $59,000? Is that?
It's on page 32. The amounts are on page 32.
Oh, in the booklet, okay.
Yes, ma'am, they're in the booklet.
I was just looking up above here, it says 59, where she has highlighted right now, it says $59,950 master plan townwide.
Right.
Is that for streets and roads?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But it's
That's
saying
for-
only put in 1,000 for this year? I'm trying to understand.
We did have a plan one time done that we asked the county to help us, and they did it. And they actually, for all the roads they do, they have they actually have a program, and so that if there's additional usage, then it adjusts just the time frame, the priorities of the roads, they prioritize them. One of the things we found out too was that the state of the road, so that might come in with the CRA, because when it gets to a certain point, you have to get down, you have to replace the whole thing. Like in Lake June Point, if you don't let it get bad, you'll just have to resurface. But once it gets down into the bed of the road, Green Dragon was a perfect example. We were going to do that. It was all set, ready to go. When they went over there to pave it, to do whatever, they found out that the substructure was, and it cost twice as much money. So we had to put it off, go back, get the funding. So if you have a professional person come in, each road is different, and how the deterioration of and the quality of the road makes a big difference. It can be twice as much. It's not just paving what we have. And that might come into the CRA. So if it has to be replaced, that might be allowable. Where if it just needs to be resurfaced, no. So I think that if we do the master plan, maybe they could help us with that, or we could tell them that we really need that. We really need that looked at as well. Thank you.
Alan and I have sat on a couple different calls where we are looking to be able to apply for a stormwater master plan that we believe will help us to get this information. The problem is that obviously we know time works against us in government, and so that happening quickly is probably not within the year or so.
So in order to get this town-wide master plan, we would have to add $59,950 to the budget. It is not in there now? Okay.
We wanted to be able to point out anything that we took off that we felt like was important for us to have on, and make note to all of you so that if you hear of anything in your conversations, and you also know what our plans are to try to tackle the pavement improvement and the stormwater issues. Back to you, Alan.
But let's keep going on that, but you need 55,000 for paving that isn't there too. I mean, 2 years ago, right, our paving was 19,000, and it looks like it's nothing. So we have nothing budgeted for paving next year?
Correct, because it was all dedicated for CRA. It is not just for new infrastructure. It does cover repair of all of our roads.
Yeah, so we need to chase that down, and if it does include repair, then we're fine. If it doesn't, then the next workshop we're going to have to determine is we need to build something in there for repairs. We can't live with potholes.
But you think that it can be funded through CRA, so that's why it's hanging out there in the margin?
Yes, it has been funded multiple times in the past.
Okay.
It has, but this last CRA, I remember we had that discussion, and I think Bert was there, because Councilwoman Eberhardt brought it up when she was reading the CRA, where it said new, not repairs.
Because I was questioning when they repaired South Oak.
Yeah.
And it's important for the public to understand the CRA money takes town taxes and county taxes. So it doesn't, the taxes in the CRA area, the town taxes in there do not go into the general fund. They come into the CRA. So those are not distributed into the regular taxes. And then the county taxes, which is a big plus for the CRA, is that we get to contain the county taxes, but we also contain the town taxes into the CRA. So those taxes do not go into the rest of the funding to fund those roads and the added infrastructure. So that's why we're talking about that.
And then, Charlotte, is there any opportunity to get anything from the county? And I say that because at that budget meeting with the county, Lori talked about that the road area has a lot of money, and that we should ask.
I don't know how, because you can't mingle the two between them. So that's what she was saying when she explained that you have the county here and the town here. We can't intermingle. We could do a interlocal agreement of some sort where we collaborate, where Allen works with their road department, and that's where she was talking about that we're already doing that because they have the asphalt plant. So instead of Allen, and Allen, you can chime in at any time, but wherever you were driving to, and he can explain it, they were driving far away, and by the time they get back, go ahead, you explain it, Allen, because you're better with the technical.
So the county, they were shut down, I believe their plant had broken down, or they had shut down for over at least a year. So we were going to Punta Gorda to pick up the hot asphalt. Even with the asphalt trailer that we have that has the propane tanks and blast the furnace on it to keep it hot the whole way back, we're still losing, say, maybe a quarter of what we bring back, and we can only haul a ton and a half because we're limited by how much the tires can hold. So even if we went out there for a ton and a half, we're only bringing back a ton and a quarter by the time it gets cold and hard, and that's all we can put out. And then the distance is so far, we can't have any projects that require more than that unless it's broken into several days, and then otherwise everything has to be small projects and only filling potholes a little bit at a time instead of large sections cut out square like it should be done properly. So we're coordinating with the county again now. They don't run it all the time. They might run it once a month, or say 3 days a month, or they might run it every 2 to 3 months. It's just whenever they do projects, they will be letting us know when that is operational again. A long time ago, we used to, when Better Roads was over on Old 8, we used to go 8-10 times a day back and forth, and our roads were fantastic. When Better Roads shut down, we had a hard time finding hot asphalt and a way to transport it.
So that's the intergovernmental collaboration. So they can't help us with funding our roads because you will hear the conversations. They want us to take more roads. Yeah. They don't want to give us money to take care of the roads. The road business is a very expensive business. And the same issues that we are facing here, they are facing there, meaning that they do not have enough staff to be able to provide the service. They have many open positions in road and bridge at the county that they cannot fill. They're across the board. If you look historically right now with positions that are open in government, if I'm being very frank, we are in a very political, it is not a fun environment. And so there are not a lot of people who are beating down the doors to come into government right now. They're not looking to come into government. It's a hostile environment at the current to most people. All right, Alan, you're back on you.
As far as the aerial lift, we have the one that we have right now. It's aging out pretty good, but we did just have it repaired and recertified. It was only in there in the event that, well, a lot of times we have to share and coordinate times between departments of when it can be used. The issue was when it broke down and it was in the shop for over a month. That's a month of growth and pre-planning that had to sit and wait. So if there's anything hanging, tree branches hitting the top of school buses, or just the overall curb appeal of everything that we have around town, when things need to be trimmed, I just wanted a backup. Ideally, I would like to have a bucket truck, something that we can actually drive from place to place and use for repairing street lights and things like that, and they go a little bit higher, but obviously that's not in the budget right now. And the one that we just had repaired actually currently needs repairs again, or at least parts, because the pins on the harness, they're just worn out. We went to plug it in and half of the pins folded over. We did
Ellen, I'm not hearing you now.
Even after having our lift repaired, we're still having to buy parts for it. So I'm not pushing for this to definitely be in here this year, but what I'm saying is we should have it in there and use the one that we have now as a backup. That's why that was there, but removed.
So looking at the Parks and Recreation, this section pertains to all of the parks except Lake King Park. And
Just to speak on that one a little bit, all these, those two that you see additional added for buffer in case of emergency, we've always done that because we have had years where lightning strikes 2 or 3 of our submersible pumps for irrigation. That doesn't mean that we'll definitely use the full amount every year, even though we generally come close. That buffer is there because otherwise I'd have to come back and request a budget amendment to council every time lightning strikes any of our equipment, among other things like natural disasters. It's just Christmas decorations, that's there to replace a lot of the same style, silhouette style Christmas lights that we have on all of the street lights. They're kind of hard to get parts for, and some of them kind of rust out. They run anywhere from $400 to $600 each. I got a quote, I don't have it with me right now, but it was for just under $9,000, I believe.
But if we wanted to, Christmas decorations could go under CRA. I just think maybe there's some things we can kind of start a potential CRA list.
I don't see how that's infrastructure.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
think,
we talked.
I think that's one of the items that we would maybe get us in trouble with when they were auditing the CRA. And if you look, not saying auditing, whenever they were looking at doing away with the CRA, items of this nature, festivals and things, were all fell in those categories. So I don't think that one would fall under a CRA.
The only reason I say it, because we talked about banners would be CRA.
yeah, but I think banners are a little different, because banners could be, how do I want to say, longer,
See what she's saying, 'cause of
longer
Christmas
shelf life, if you will. I mean, if you put a banner, "Welcome to Lake Placid, Palladium Capital of the World," you could leave that up all season. Christmas decorations, they really frown on you leaving them up after Easter.
So let's just, when we chase down, the roads and that, let's see. It's just a
Yeah.
potential.
There's also, some of that money gets used for during festivals and events, just stocking restroom supplies, things like that for like Palladium Festival.
Alan, you want to discuss the equipment and machinery?
For the mower, we removed it, actually, I don't know the exact reason, but it was taken out of this current year's budget, so I was putting it back in for next year's. We do need to replace a lawnmower, and the rest is for general power tools, as far as chainsaws, weed eaters, edgers, backpack blowers, of the likes. Tough book for foreman there, that's recommended to have we have field foremen, and we kind of go through laptops just due to damage, just being out in the field, and they're just not built for that. So I was demonstrated the tough book style that the police department uses, so that I placed that in there for replacement.
Alan, can you tell us how long your foreman position had been open? Roughly,
It was about just under 2 years. probably.
And he just filled the position.
Since April 2020, well, probably prior to that, so probably closer to November 2022.
Thank you. Any questions? When Rachel said that it literally is bare bones, it's really bare bones.
If you want to stick with me, we can do cemetery. Otherwise, if you want to move on.
So you're going to scroll down, Rachel? Oh, yeah.
So just, is the $12,000 the laptop?
About 3,000 is a laptop.
So where it says Dell Toughbook for Foreman, that's not a laptop? You said that's a, where it says $12,838?
Yeah, 3,000 of that. I'm not sure where the increase came from.
I think you're also looking at what previously happened as far as it could be other capital outlay that can be in there that included, so it's just not that, but the Tough Book was one part of the cost.
What else is it?
So for recreation, it could be something as far as that, I would have to look to see exactly what this total was here.
Okay. And then I'm somewhat assuming, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the playground equipment that came out during the inspection that needs to be replaced within the CRA district, which is your district, we'd be looking over at the CRA budget to incorporate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's next in 2 weeks, Charlotte's budget workshop.
And cemetery is pretty much just a necessary thing, but only thing added in here, 2 things, the cemetery expansion survey and also a landscaping improvement. Alan, you want to discuss those?
So the landscaping improvement will be additional to line the roadways coming in. The north and south fence lines both have trees that create an archway. I was wanting to continue that down the very center strip. I can tell you, after being out there multiple years, just about every other person wants to be buried under a tree or by a plot under or around a tree. So without putting trees in the middle of the field and taking up plots, I was just wanting to continue the roadways.
Where are we at? Cemetery?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be,
Well, I'm looking at this other thing.
some style of oak, preferably like laurel oak or something of the such.
And do we have a master plan? Is that what this is? Is this something new, a cemetery you know,
That's being worked on.
so $6,100 for a cemetery master plan? Who's doing that?
We received a quote from Stonehenge.
Okay.
We did talk with Central Florida Regional Planning to find out if they were doing any type of cemetery, and what they said is the same thing that we're experiencing, that they are getting reports that they are experiencing that in other municipalities. However, they have never done a cemetery master plan, so it would be a new one for them. They will plan to incorporate that, but she said that, Jennifer Cota Salisbury being she, said that that would probably come at a later date. So because we are reaching capacity right now, we have to plan. We've got to look at the mausoleum. There are a lot of variables involved. But when we go out there and I look at it, I personally, Councilwoman Hayes, you are probably out there. I know that you visit, and they're just so tight and close that it makes it where I don't know how people are even able to visit. And so some of the conversations have come up. Eva and I have visited out there. We go and we look and we try to find out Alan, and it just doesn't make sense. It's almost like we've just kind of put as many in there as we could, but we need a master plan to properly plan for family members and for their that's their resting place.
I know that my family graves are in actually three different locations.
Yeah.
And the older ones have much larger lots than the more recent ones,
Yeah.
so, including mine.
And that's some of the comments that we have received, is that if they want to buy several for a family, and then or if they only can do so many here, but then they've got to wait, it's all over. So we're trying to get a better handle on that. Again, this is another area where we were asked, did the town believe that they needed to be in the cemetery business? That is up to council's decision. Right now, we are tasked with taking care of the cemetery. We believe from town staff that it is a benefit to our residents, but again, that's the council's decision. But this would be our best plan to properly, because once we reach capacity, Alan said, we don't know what we're going to do and which way we're going to go. Some of the conversations around this, since we're hitting it really fast so that I could clarify for public, is that there had been conversations around the property that was purchased around the cemetery and it being for a commerce park, because Duke had previously conducted a Duke site readiness plan. It is a shelf-ready plan. Eva and I met with Economic Development, Leah Sauls, and she explained to us that it was a shelf-ready plan that whenever they go to shows and they are trying to attract businesses into the area, to say this is a plan and this is where we know that we've identified that this would be good, to try to get them to come here. The town has not committed any of our property to any of this expansion. Although when you look at the map, it does show it all the way around our cemetery. So the idea is that we would entertain some of the conversations whenever that arises. That's what we have been told. The only thing that they are asking from us right now and having the conversations are where are our lines for sewer and water. So Bert Warner, our director, has been taking care of, Public Works director, has been working with them on that. So for public transparency and to make sure we're all aware, the property was purchased with cemetery funds. We are moving forward with cemetery plans. And if anything else transpires, it will come to this council for that decision whenever and if it arises. Thank you.
How close are you? How many spaces are left?
I don't have an exact count. We do have quite a few left. It's just a matter of we're already altering from the original plan of how it was mapped and laid out. Because we had gone so far down the fence lines, that left the areas behind the mausoleums. They were just memorial, where all the monuments had the restriction of being a flat stone. That kind of got left behind because a lot of people prefer the traditional upright style monuments. So what we did is we skipped about 2 lots and then cut the field in half to allow uprights to continue from that point forward, so the middle catches up to the sides. And then once we meet that point, that alone, I believe, adds about 460-ish plots that would have to be filled before we start continuing down the fence line again. But it's a lot better to start making a plan now rather than pushing it down the road until we wish we would have done it beforehand.
I just didn't know if it was tomorrow or next week.
No, it's actually because, as stated, they are so tight now. The older section ranges, that's all over the place, but it's between 5 1/4 to 6 feet wide by 12 feet long. Some areas that we have now in the newer section are only 3.6 feet wide by 10 long, with the fence lines being 4 by 11. So there's not a whole lot of room, a margin for error left in side by side there. So we'd like to increase that slightly, if possible. It allows for more leeway for the monument styles. The other thing is the mausoleum itself. The crypts are just about filled. So even though there's a whole north wall and the equivalent to a second wall, but in the breezeway of available niches for cremation urns, we should look at building a new mausoleum, which land is already dedicated north and south of where the current ones are standing, just so we can be prepared for when that one does fill up, unless someone wants to change how that's laid out.
Thank you, Alan.
Do you want to
And
keep it
sanitation.
rolling, go with sanitation?
Yes, right there.
One thing that might stand out, that's the fleet maintenance schedule and truck number 1 body repair. The main body of truck number 1, it's just rusted out all along the edges. We've done multiple repairs as far as we can, but now the metal is just so paper thin, there's nothing left for us to attempt to weld to. So it needs to go to a professional shop and have those sections in order to continue it. Otherwise, 1, you're just going to deteriorate that truck, and 2, you're going to be leaking garbage juice everywhere, and you don't want to do that for environmental reasons. The estimated $15,000 per month for the landfill fees. I haven't heard, someone mentioned it today, but it was the first I had heard of it, about Highlands County. I think they're keeping their rates the same, unless anyone's heard different, that they might be increasing their rates. But that is based on that total. And then EPI, where we take all the brush vegetative in town, they've been $60 per load per year with the town's discount. But they've, as of May, I believe, they increased it to 80. So it's actually going to be roughly $1,240 per month. We do about 181 trips there a year. I have some of that information broken down, but I thought I'd get into more detail with it during the presentation prior to the CRA. From what I've gathered, we use about 50,000 comes from residential garbage every year, and about 133,000 comes from commercial. So that 50,000 residential is 36,000 from actual collection of the garbage carts, roughly 13,000 from picking up with the claw truck, and then we pick up a couple times a year of tires, which is negligible. It's like $200 for a full truckload. So.
Alan, does that include sanitation?
Unless there's any further questions, I believe so.
Yeah, no questions on sanitation. We'll go to cultural services. Now, cultural services involve Lake June Park only. And this is Harry's department. Harry does have 2 new positions in on this area. And so that's one is a supervisor and one is a regular employee. And that includes the health and payroll taxes and all that stuff. And I do want to say that on this one, if you look at the town insurance, So the town insurance significantly increased because there was an event that happened at Lake June Park that actually created a big jump in the insurance. So this year, he kind of taken, Lake June Park is taking a bigger hit on the insurance to cover the hit that happened to the insurance.
Say that again, because that was going to be my question. So currently, we've got 3,200 that we budgeted for insurance, and it's going up to 32,000?
Yes. So
Because of why?
the town insurance increased because there was a hurricane out there and there was a lot of damage in Lake June Park, which actually increased the insurance. So the 32,000 is actually incurred because of Lake June Park. So that cost was allocated back to that area. And so next year, if no events, then that cost will go down again.
Wow.
What was the damage cost? What I'm getting at is, would it be beneficial to be self-insured at that rate?
Was there building, I don't think there was building costs. It was primarily landscaping and trees down, trees from actually the smoke had just plowed down those trees and they come flying over and they were all over. But I don't know, Harry, what was the extent of the damage for the hurricane at Lake June Park?
The only damage I'm aware of was the lighting pole that came down. Was 19,000 and some change to repair. I don't know what that line item is up there.
Yeah, it was the lighting, and it was something else in that area, but was it the soffit on the complex building out there? It was something else in there. But it was two events in this area that created higher insurance.
But what was the amount of the claim? Just roughly.
I got it.
I'm just trying to compare it.
See,
If the
because
claim was $5,000 and now we're paying $32,000.
But in the pool insurance, it don't really work about how much the claim was. It goes by how much the value of that area. So it goes on the whole area as far as the risk. So even though the light pole itself that he just got a refund back of about $14,000 on that one light pole, it doesn't really based on just that claim. It's on the whole area of that risk.
Let me ask it a different way. What was the total increase in PRM's insurance this year? Because I understand these are allocations, right?
Right.
So
It was like a 22% increase, and that was an estimate. It could be higher. We don't have the final on that right now.
So what's our total insurance bill
About $389,000
for all of our properties?
Mm-hmm.
And that went up 22%?
Yes,
Do we have deductibles on that? High deductibles or?
just $1,000 deductible on vehicles, and it's a percentage of the value of the property.
Do they do like a 2% insurance, hurricane deductible or something? I'm not an expert in our insurance policy, but if it's gone up 22%, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of dive in a little more to see, is there any opportunity for any savings anywhere?
But I think for the last couple of years, we have had a claim out at Lake June Park every year because of hurricanes. So that kind of lead into it. Even though it happened in, say, for instance, November, it just depends on the quarter that it falls in with the insurance that can make it where it rolled into 2 years. So,
Okay.
Kind of like an auto accident, when you get an auto accident and it takes so many years for it to fall off. It's the same way. They're going to hold it there and you're going to be penalized basically until it falls off.
Harry, did you want to include talk about the tree service, irrigation repairs?
So every year we do a tree service out there through Joe's Tree Service. There's no way that my staff can trim that many trees. I want to say there's at least 50 or 60 trees out there. So every year, Joe's Tree Service does that service for us. Irrigation repair, that's the first phase of getting the irrigation out there and working. The company come out and did a evaluation. This includes them putting in new, it's like a wireless, what are they called? There's a transmitter they're putting in, but these are wireless solenoids and stuff in the ground, because the ones we have, the wire is deteriorating, and some of them, we have whole fields that aren't even working because we're not getting any communication from the irrigation box to the stuff in the ground there. So they will be coming out and replacing all irrigation heads, putting in the wireless communication for those systems, and after that, then they will be able to come out and evaluate it even more to get better coverage and stuff on the fields to make them look better. So we got one whole field at the moment that it's not getting any water besides rain. Yeah, those are 30-year-old systems out there. So that's that part. The irrigation part is $12,000. I have it right here. That's through Premier Irrigation. They do work for the county and for the city of Sebring. Maybe even, I'm not sure if they do Avon Park, but that is $12,916, which is included in that amount there in the 63. And what else we got here? That's on top of my normal repair and maintenance. So the 10,000, well, it's 9,800 for the tree service, and then another 12,916 for the irrigation, which is on top of the 30,000 that I normally get for the ball fields for repair and maintenance.
$12,000 for 4 fields?
That's for 5 fields. That's fields 1. It's actually, looks like.
It says 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's 4 fields. That's the
Okay.
4 lower fields, because field 5 actually has pretty good coverage.
So that's only $3,000 a field. That's pretty good.
But that's just the first phase of it. After they get this installed, then they can actually
Yeah,
do a real evaluation on the fields once they have all
Okay.
the sprinkler heads.
that's still good.
The only issue we have here is you have to go out for bid for this because it's over 10,000.
Right.
And I was just going to make the recommendation that maybe council consider raising that, because it doesn't take long to spend $10,000 anymore. And I know in the past, y'all, it was 5,000 and you raised it to 10. So I just recommend that maybe we raise that a little bit more so we won't have to go out for bid for every single thing that we try to do.
When you go to wireless like that, does that preclude a lightning strike knocking out a bunch, or do we have lightning protection?
I don't know that there's lightning rods.
Don't
out
forget,
there.
I come from the golf business, so I'm thinking,
So
when I've
this
seen it go
system's-
all the way down the fairway, and I
This
lose all my
system's not
head.
cellular. It only works on its own. It has its own wireless connection. It's
So
not
can
a-
it withstand a lightning strike, or do we have to build in some lightning protection?
I'm not 100%.
It wouldn't be lightning protected, but it would take out an individual solenoid instead of the wires that connect them all, that could
Okay.
spider out and wipe the whole
Okay,
system.
thank you.
So on the chemicals, I think here Alan been kind of eating the charge in the in the recreation section, and Harry been escaping the cost, but now it's allocated to the right department. So this is for Lake June. So that's why the cost of the chemicals went up. I think this was spraying ants and,
Yeah, so the chemical went up because there's $1,200 a month that normally didn't come out of my chemical budget. That chemical line item was normally for my weed killer, all the stuff that we spray on the baseball and softball fields out there. Because I've been here 9 years and I never knew there was a $1,200 charge. And then this year it started coming out of my chemical budget. That $1,200, that is what Clark's does. They come out every month and they spray, not every month, I think it's quarterly. Well, they come out and they spray our buildings plus our football fields, soccer fields, multi-use fields, and the Miracle League field for ants and stuff like that. So the $1,200 is monthly. So I had to add that into my regular chemical budget, which brought it up significantly. I don't know where the $1,200 was being charged prior to that.
So they have been doing it?
It's always been done. I just don't know where it was being charged.
No, so they have been spraying for ants all these years?
Yes, they do.
But we still had ant problems.
We're in Florida.
You're never going to stop
It's the
ants.
rain and everything else. I'm being serious. We're in Florida.
You can go out there and spray an anthill and it will move 3 feet. They just move. They don't.
And the
you don't
rain makes
eradicate
it
'em.
worse.
Oh,
It just
I have
makes
to
it
use
so
my
worse.
old-fashioned recipe then. That kills them dead.
You can tell us, or you going to share with us?
Yeah,
She said yes.
it's easy. It's just like borax and honey and water.
Really? Hear that?
Harry, you want to go ahead and talk about the lights?
Okay, so that $299 is not just for lights. I have estimates for lights in there. There's $85,800 of that would be to rebuild 4 pavilions. Let me look at the quote. So the $85,800, that is for replacement of 7 small pavilions. That's the pavilions in the drive there, but I think we took and brought that down to $42,900 just to do 4 to take some of the cost out of there. So you'll see it says $82,500, and then if you drop that down, it's actually 2 pavilions. Is that correct?
Is that replacing the broken down ones?
So the estimate here I have is for $85,800, and that is to rebuild 7 small pavilions. So that would be all the pavilions.
That would be, tear the ones down that are...
Tear them down, and
Okay.
they would be rebuilt with metal
So-
pavilions.
Say that number again, 85,800?
$85,800, but to bring the budget down just a little bit, we went down and took it,
So that would be demolish and
demolish and rebuild.
rebuild 7 of the
Yep,
small
so
pavilions.
instead of doing the 7, we dropped it down to, I can't tell if that says 2 or 4. 4. If 42,900 would cover 4. So if you wanted to do them separately, they're $13,200 a piece.
So the 299 is for 4 small pavilions and a number of other things in there.
No, the $299 includes repair of the lights on
Right,
fields.
right, all the things that are listed there.
All the things that are listed
Yeah,
there, yes.
but it's not 7 pavilions, it's only 4
It's only going to be
small,
up to
new
4.
small ones.
It'll be up to 4 based on doing them separately is $13,200 each.
Okay.
The total price is $85,800 for all 7 or $13,200 each. So whatever we can get built for $42,900.
Right, I understand, thank you.
And then you have $8,518 that will cover 2 bleachers. The bleachers come to, I have those here too. As somebody mentioned one time that the bleachers were not in great shape. After going out there and looking at them, we only have 1 rusted bleachers. The rest of them are not bad. So $8,518.04 will cover 2 bleachers. if you wanted them all replaced, well, actually, you would not even replacing them all. We need 2 bleachers at the Miracle League field because we move them every year from Field 5 down to the Miracle League, so they have enough seating. I've gotten comments before that football has no bleachers, so if that would be 2 there. They want some bleachers at the T-ball fields. There's absolutely nowhere to sit at the T-ball fields. So a total of 6 bleachers would satisfy everybody, but we can get away with just getting 2 and just moving them around for now. So to replace all 6 bleachers would be $32,912.68. That includes the shipping. This here with the $8,518, that does not include shipping. Yeah, and the more you move those bleachers, the more you damage them.
So can you kind of summarize again to get to the $299?
Okay,
So you've got, because I've took different notes, but some were, well, they need more, but we're only going to go in with a small amount.
I have multiple estimates to repair lights out there.
Right?
I have estimates from Central Contractors and from Community Electric, and they're all for pretty much the same work, but it's different work at the same time. So Central Contractors, I have an estimate here. The town would be going straight to the wholesaler to buy the lights. There's different powered lights out there, so fields 1 and 2 are 277 volt systems, and if the town goes and buys the lights, there's an average of 5 on each pole. It's $595 each fixture, so that would be 5 times $595, and $21.50 for the labor to do each pole on each field. Each field has, field 1 and 2 has 6 poles, so the $21.50 would be times 6, and then, man, that's 30 light fixtures at $595 each. Fields 4 and 5 have 8 poles. Those fixtures are $625 each at $21.50 per pole to repair. That's no wiring, not replacing any of the poles. Some of the wooden poles are rotten. I know they're going to have to be replaced. It's not replacing any brackets. That's just replacing fixtures. I also have an estimate here, which is not on here, that breaks it down to each field. Field 1 to replace the entire lighting is $86,451, which I think we have, that's in the budget there. That $172,902 replaces complete light replacement on field 1 and 2. That's poles, brackets, lights going to LED from the metal halide. And then the 71, I thought there was a $71,500 would be replacing just the lights on fields 4 and 5. Field 4 will not need any poles, but that's only the fixtures on field 4 and 5. That's not replacing any brackets, or field 5, it has wooden poles if anything was rotten on those poles. So that line item includes lighting on all the fields at some, might not be full replacement, but it's full replacement for 2 fields. The other 2 is just partial repairs that can be done for that amount. And then bleachers, repairing some or replacing some of the small pavilions that are down there.
So 300,000, and then it can range from low to high in each of those areas.
Correct,
basically.
except for fields 1 and 2. That would be.
Yeah, no, I meant lighting and everything. I mean, it was all, lots of ranges there between bleachers where.
Anything else needed to be replaced on field 4 and 5, the price could go up.
So what's the Miracle League saying is wrong with the bleachers over there?
There's not enough under the pavilion there. There's 2 sets of bleachers. When they have more people coming out and watching, they need the extra sets.
Okay.
Terry, you had said something, though, on the bleachers because they keep moving them around different
So
entities.
we move them every year. We have to
Right.
keep moving with forklifts, and or not the forklift, but the forks on the machines we have, and it damages them on bottom when you
Right,
pick them up.
that's what I was gonna say.
And when I carry them all the way down to the lake when we do the races and stuff like that, it ends up bending things.
Didn't the one football league do that too?
What's that?
Didn't the one football league
So they
move those bleachers
they
the first
did move
time?
them, but I think they just got a bunch of guys. That
I think they did. They
run
just
picked them up. They're
muscled
not
them
light,
over. Yeah,
So
for the semi-pro, or what do they call that football league? Charlotte, I have a question here. I was just wondering, for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that we just approved, where do we see that in the budget?
It's not in the budget.
Okay, so that's something,
It's not in the budget. We just received the actual amount. I do have the amount. Hold on.
will we put that under administration because it covers all the parks? Well, wherever that needs to go.
I'd just like to say for fields 1 and 2, we went with doing the complete replacement of the lights, because if those fields, we would get up there and those poles are rotten and dangerous, then you're going to lose those 2 fields for the entire season. They won't be able to play.
But our insurance is going to cover it.
Not rotten poles.
Bad joke, bad joke. Plus, if we replace these with LED, we should see this
You'll see a
$20,000
savings in-
electric bill kind of start to go down also.
And also the lighting that we're replacing, when we're replacing the fixtures on 4 and 5, that's replacing from metal halide to LED on all of those also.
I thought I wrote it on this one. Oh, yes, I did. I was like, I know I did. 40,900 would count, and if we put that in the budget, it would have to come out of fund balance right now.
And then with that, okay, the playground. We talked about the playgrounds outside of Lake June Park. We have a way to fund through the CRA, and we'll be talking about that. But I don't see anything in Lake June Park for playground money. So we should be budgeting something for that, because even if we go out for grants, we have to have matching amounts.
For this year, if we continue with the pickleball, I don't know that there will be any other project that would occur in Lake June Park for us to be able to go out for additional grant funding, because FERDAP is the only one that we can go out for, and it's tied up. You can only have the one at Lake June Park, so we've got to make decisions right now on what FERDAP grant we're going to apply for, or we're going to miss the window. So that's on the agenda for August. If you want to put playgrounds in here, we could certainly do that, but when we were prioritizing, we felt like we needed to take care of the field lights and things of that nature, opposed to a playground, and so it's slated on the capital improvement plan to look at additional playground for next fiscal year. I believe it's on the capital.
See, I think we need to put money in for the playground for Lake June Park. That playground is in disrepair, parts have been taken out, the inspection report said replace it as soon as possible, and it's just hard for me to sit here with all of the feedback that we've been receiving for the playground down there to say, oh, we're going to wait another 2 years.
But didn't we repair what, we've already repaired what was set as needed to be repaired, so.
Everything's been repaired, except we have not gotten to the point to put the climbing wall holds on yet.
Right, right. So we have at least repaired that. And frankly, if we don't go forward with pickleball with that grant, we'll never get any more grants, or at least we won't for several years. And you know, we have 2 segments of our population that we need to serve. And that's what we were up here to do, is to serve the town of Lake Placid and the people in the surrounding areas. And our most recent study said that the majority of our people are, like, what was it, 63 or or more percentage of our people were retirees. And of course, we have some young people too, and we certainly want to keep them here. But pickleball has been, again, 3 times up and around, and I think we have a good way to go forward with that in a pretty timely manner. And we really just need to get this built. It's a sport that is really coming along, and every time we talk about it, we fill the room with people that want it. Now, I'm certainly not saying that we don't need the playground equipment. We do, but I think it's just a little matter of priority. So
You got to remember that those playgrounds down there they had the best inspection rating than any of the ones in town.
great. So they were the best of all of them. So we
They
really
are
need to
old,
replace
but
the others first.
They still do make parts for those playgrounds.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
So this isn't about pickleball, but Charlotte, we could go to RPAC for money too, right?
We can go to RPAC for money, but RPAC is only going to award, and Carolyn Morrison is here, but $75,000. And so we will not get any amount towards what we're used to. And $75,000 for a playground, Harry, you can talk.
Those playgrounds down there, when they were put in, were over $100,000 a piece.
Yeah, that won't even give you a swing set.
Don't
20
doubt
years
it.
ago.
Don't doubt it, but playgrounds is important for grandchildren, for parents that use that park. I mean, we also have Mrs. Heath here with 500 signatures where people want to use the park and the playground. And we're going to spend $2 million for a new police station from infrastructure when we've got nothing. We've got limited. I mean, we took a lot of it out. We took the climbing net out before. We took other things out. The sandbox, I think, now is being removed. And I just think that it would be a shame to go forward with a budget that has no money in it for playground at Lake June Park.
If I could speak to that, we would love to be able to have one. I think that it's a want that we all want and desire, but when we're looking at it, public safety was already put into place before I ever got here. This was a plan that was already moving forward. So I know we're looking at the police department, but that's public safety. We're trying to stay afloat and sustain. So we want to put another playground down there, but we need to apply for a grant unless we're saying that we have the money to be able to put that in here now. And of course, that is totally up to council's discretion. All of you will vote for that, if that's what you would like, is for us to put that in there. And we can put it in there, and we will have to look to see what we cut. But you're seeing what we have options here of what we would have to cut to do that, or either go into our fund balance. Am I saying that correctly, the fund balance? Okay. Rachel has been educating me greatly on some things as well.
Yeah, I would love to see playground equipment there as well, but I am not ready to have swing sets as opposed to public safety. I'm sorry, I'm not going there.
I'm just clarifying, because we've looked at it, we've talked about it. We know that under the CRA, because all of the other parks do fall in that district, that although we may not be able to do it at Lake June Park this year, we have a project that is going to come into fruition that is slated to start. So there's activity at Lake June Park. Now we can look at completing Devane, no, it's not, Bicentennial Park. We can finish Bicentennial Park. Our proposal would be to use that for our FERDAP grant so that we can get that finished for this fiscal year. And then to look at the other CRA parks and then use some of the CRA money to slate to those parks. So in reality, we do have Parks and Rec improvements that are happening across the town in many different places. That was our thought process, just so everybody is aware.
Now, I know we won't solve this tonight, but something to mull over is, are there any ways we can get additional revenue by user fees? Like, for example, if you launch your boat, there are some parks where it's like a self-pay thing, but then there's the added cost. Somebody has to monitor to make sure they paid. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out for you guys to kind of mull around if there's some way to get user fees, because it's county people, and for example, the people from Venus and Sebring that are going to be using the pickleball court. So just kind of mull that around.
I have it in our packet because those are great points. we talk about that with renting when we went through the fee workshop. And we talked about all of our, with that, I know it was a lot. We realize that it's a lot of information all at once. So we had hoped to be able to give it to you in bite-sized pieces. But if you go back to those packets, user fees and things of that nature are in there, even updating our park fees. Eva, you'll have to help me with this because I have too many numbers going in my brain. But what year was it?
So in 2017, they were reduced. So for example, Stewart Park, all of Stewart Park, rented for a half a day for $250. It's based on the number of people. So we went down to $50 for an entire park. Same thing with Devane Park. That was, whatever, 200, I don't have the numbers with me, but they were all well within a dollar figure, and everything went down to $50. So it was a vast reduction to what previously the town was collecting for the rentals of these parks. Even the pavilions, you know. So right now, your revenue dropped dramatically for your parks and recreation when you reduce those fees from, for example, 200 and something, and it was based on population, I think it was, or $35 an hour, I think it was. So it was in one of your packets. I gave you the original resolution from 2012 and the resolution from 2017. So during that time frame, you had a reduction of revenue, and in my opinion, substantial, for quite a number of years now, since 2017.
Just to give you an example, there is a semi-pro football team going to use the park, one football field Saturday. They're going to pay a $150 refundable deposit and $25 to use the field.
To use the field.
All day.
To use the field,
$25.
yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we represent 2,500 people in this town, men, women, and children. That's who we represent. And you can, I mean, we're great hosts to the rest of the world, but we have to look after our people. As far as the playground equipment, I think we've pretty much brought it up to standard down Lake June Park, but we have a brand-new facility over there in Serenity Village. I mean, and then I had a friend call me one time, and Bicentennial Park was really the place to go at that time. He was just wanting to place to take his grandkids. Well, he didn't have to take them to Lake June Park. He could take them to Bicentennial. I think that Bicentennial Park playground equipment would get way more used than Lake June. So you have to look at what's the real use. If we're really talking about children and what they need, we have to look at the facilities and what's around there. I heard that, and I wouldn't have thought that the Serenity Village playground equipment would be hardly used at all. It's $150,000, but I understand it's used quite a bit. And then I know Bicentennial Park, when it was active, it was heavily used. So, and then I just think you have to look at the whole picture, and I think we need to use our dollars wisely for our 2,500 people. Thank you.
So Lake June Park also has the beach area, the pavilions, the barbecue grills, and people go there for picnicking, playing on the green space, and more important, the ball fields as they're getting used, the siblings over on the playground. So it gets used a lot. I mean, 80, 100 cars are there, you know, the boaters and all of that. And I think, Alan, the Serenity Park, I think, didn't you say it was like $60,000, $57,000? That's a very nice playground structure.
Yeah, that was the nicest one I could get for the amount of money that
Absolutely,
we had.
and it was very reasonable, and it gets used a lot. It's kind of a pocket neighborhood over there. I mean, so I hear numbers being thrown out, you know, 100, 150,000. 2 years ago, right? $57,000.
But just to mention it, it is a company we haven't used before, so it's also kind of a test to see how long this is going to last for that kind of money, because it was probably half of what Game Time would have charged. But very pleased with the condition of it and the quality of it. But even the one that was at Lake June Park, I was there when we put it in, and it's you know, it got deteriorated pretty quick. Everything gets sun-baked. So
Yeah.
something else to keep in mind, obviously, is it helps a lot if you just plant some nice trees around these structures. You don't have to spend a fortune on shade, the actual shade structures. If you just think the trees by the Miracle League, I put those in, and now they're creating shade for half of that field. So I mean, it only took 12, 15 years, but I mean, it's still a short amount of time for what you get out of it.
So I certainly don't doubt you at all, but I just can't seem to get to the parks at the times that people are using them, probably because I work during those times, especially on Saturday. But when you do see all these cars and people at the parks, at Lake June Park, are they on the equipment that's there now?
They're doing everything.
Are they on everything?
Memorial Day weekend, there were 32 trucks with trailers, boaters, that had put in, and they were parked all over.
I did
The
see
big
that.
pavilion,
Yeah.
so the pavilion is used every weekend. The pavilions are being used. The beach, the kids are in the beach there. And then you've got, just, I call it the wiffle ball on the green space and a lot. And then during the ball times, it's double crowded.
Then are they on the swings? Are they on the swing sets and the climbing wall and all that
They
stuff?
come over there and use, yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Okay.
But if we had nicer equipment and more equipment, they would get used more. I mean, Joy had mentioned, Councilwoman Eberhardt mentioned she follows social media. And the social media of the playground equipment that the families want and the grandparents, I get it, you don't have your grandchildren here. I take them to the parks. These parks are pocket parks versus something that's a little broader. And I think that anybody that has children, and we've listened to all the ball players talk about that, is that ball fields is used a lot for ball night. And Harry, one child's playing ball and the other's heading over to the siblings don't watch each other. They go over to the playground and that. And I mean, if I have to be the sole person up here constantly reinforcing when we knocked on doors, what people wanted, they wanted more for the children and the families in this town. And I appreciate Bicentennial Park being expanded, but there's also a variety of parks which kids like to do too. And so Charlotte, the Placer AI that you gave us, I think we need to get out those statistics on Lake June Park of how many people and how many are using that park. We were blown away, right? It was like 1,000 a day or something incredible through the roof.
There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of activity there.
I'd like to know on Lake June Park, of all the people that use it, how many are residents of the town, or as opposed to residents of the county? Because it seems to me like we could ask the county for more funding. I mean, we're funding the county people, not just the people that live in the town.
We did that once before. It's about 90% county.
Right.
9% county, it's mostly Lake June. I mean, they bicycle down there, they walk down there, and to that point, as you recall, I did ask the county during the budget meeting. I said, you've given us $125,000, we need to get more. And I did bring that up and ask them.
Yeah.
And
what
the
did
answer,
they say, like, no?
Arlene said, we never go and ask them more. And I said, we'll consider an ask right now. But it's going to be, so 125 is going to Lake Placid, 125 is going to Sebring, 125 is going to Avon Park. So the comment was they're consistent. And then 50,000 is going to Spring Lake and 50,000 is going to Sun and Lakes.
But if we go there with data, maybe we would have a better leg to stand on.
I use data. I basically said we've got 22,000 surrounding the area and we've got 2,300 residents, and our costs are going up, and our playground inspections showed to replace it as soon as possible. I just think that for us, we're asking the town taxpayers to increase 200,000 ad valorem, right? 3.1 to 3.65. and there's nothing in here for playground for Lake June Park.
Not for Lake June Park, but other parks.
I just said there's nothing in here for Lake June Park.
Correct, but we are, I was going to say.
That
we
is
are
the park that is used the most.
Harry,
So
what is the
I'll,
park?
I'll stand down, but I,
It's still not the only park.
What is the park behind the old bowling alley that I know is now whatever the bar is
Spruce,
that's down there?
Gladiola,
Spruce Park.
yeah.
Okay, that is the park that I have been asked by the most for us to get playground equipment in. Correct. And that there are children that use that park all the time. So when we want to present to CRA, that's going to be one of the areas we want to look at, is because we're trying to make sure that recreation and activities are being able to be spaced out around the town to the best of our ability with the money and the resources we currently have, or that we can plan for.
The 3 parks that are in the town, not Lake June Park, those get used by our citizens the most, because those are the ones that they can walk to and ride their bike to without their parents wondering how far they've gone. Whereas I'm not disagreeing, we definitely need something at Lake June Park, and I'd love to see a massive structure there, not just something for $50,000. But I can tell you that the other 3 parks are in need of upgraded equipment, to say the least, and not only the equipment, but it's going to take the sand that we put there. That's always just been temporary. We even just rototilled it today just to get the grass out of it. It's going to need the whole 9 yards, like you're starting from scratch. You're going to need the border to hold the mulch, the grass, the weed barrier. So I can tell you that those 3 were actually very surprising on that heat map. How often even Spruce behind the old bowling alley, you'd think that's the corner back end of town, like not a whole lot of traffic there, but it is used constantly.
And the other thing about that with the Placer AI data, when we talked with the county, is they said that you have to also remember that unless a child that is going unattended without a parent is carrying a cell phone, that is how Placer AI data gathers that information. So if you go sit, that's how you're going to get more. I mean, you hate to sit, but you would have to, and they call them park soap. And it's where you go and you sit and you evaluate and you ask people when they come where they're coming from. Well, you're going to see that it's primarily children. There aren't parents that are joining them at these parks. So we may not have accurate data from Placer AI to really reflect, but when we did look at it, it was surprising to see how many are using those as well. But just putting it out there so that everybody's aware. And it is 9:07 and we had a hard 9 o'clock stop time. So do we want to finish with Harry's and then resume at the next meeting?
I think we need to finish, and I think we need to open it up. We told the audience, told questions, and so I think that we also need to give them some time to ask some questions, at least at the point we are. Yeah, okay, good.
I have somewhere to be.
If you wanted to continue, we got a couple more to go through. If you want to finish this tonight, or you want to stop and come back on the next one?
I'm personally, I would like to come back. I get tired, and I don't think you make good decisions when you keep going from 5, well, this is 6. But there was a reason we decided that, I thought. I mean, maybe I'm a morning person, and I'm tired.
Do you want to finish the last one on the culture? We only got
Well, no,
one.
I'd like to finish with this. I'd like to finish this, but I'd like to go ahead and, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, stop then, hear from the public, and let's, if that's okay. I mean, maybe it's just me.
But then in the meantime, we can check out the CRA thing to find out if it's repairs or only new infrastructure.
Right, right.
So if you go look at our community redevelopment plan, paving is in that plan. It's under goals. So that is not, I believe, contained, because I looked it up, because I remember we've already done paving through the CR.
Well, I know, but is it repairs or is it new?
It's going
Are
to
both
be new
are both allowed?
Correct.
Overlays is also.
I know they have used it for repairs, and I always questioned whether that was legitimate. That the CRA would be for like new paving, for example, a sidewalk up to the visitor center.
I know that we have in the past, what's the one we did under CRA, like the first year we got into CRA, the second year? I don't remember, because I remember doing the pictures and
Are you
I
referring
remember
to
doing the pictures
roads
in the
or-
report.
Are you referring to roads or sidewalks?
What was it?
We
Was it?
did a paving project with CRA funds. I don't remember which road that was.
I know we did.
I can look that
I know
up.
you did,
I can look that up.
we did South Oak, but that was repairs.
I think that the term that we used originally, and I don't know if that's changed, was maintenance. It's for infrastructure, not maintenance. I think that was the term.
That's what I'm trying to get at. You cannot use it for maintenance.
Well, that's what we have to figure out, so we can
I
do
would-
that before the next meeting,
I would
too.
suggest maybe, Charlotte, you can call Jennifer and get clarification, because the way I read it, paving is allowed within the CRA report. I mean, our plan.
New paving.
New paving.
Yeah,
But that's what you're talking about, new
We're-
paving?
Right.
New pavement, not building new roads.
Right,
It's
but
just,
Well-
paving, and it's not building, but new paving.
let's check it out.
Yeah.
I've got the bug about that.
I
We
just
wanna go
recall,
to jail.
the reason I looked it up is because I recalled that.
Joy
we
doesn't
had-
want to go to jail.
I had recalled we had done paving within the CRA district, that's why I looked it up.
Yeah,
So-
I know we did.
I don't want you to go to jail either. I don't want to go with you either.
Charlotte, I just want to say, clarify that the RPAC, it's two $75,000 projects. You have two projects at any given time, rolling for a total of $150,000.
Right, but it's not, it's for all municipalities, though, in the town of Lake Placid. It's not just the town of Lake Placid. My understanding is that that if the school wants to apply, then the school can apply. So it's not a given that we're going to get the 75,000, whether we apply for one or both. It's going to be,
You can apply for up to two rolling projects at any one time for a total of $150,000. You said $75,000, I just wanted to clarify that's what the current RPAC board members decided.
okay, thank you. But still, though, the point, though, is that, never mind, I'll leave it alone. You may not, what I'm saying is that we can't count on that because they already told us that any municipality in our region, and I believe we're Region 4, I think, and so that means that we will be competing now for a lower amount than what we've even received in the past, and there's no guarantee that we will get it where in past it was not necessarily a given, but it was expected, so to speak, that the town would receive that, and that's not the case anymore, so we can't count on that money. That was the point I wanted to make. But thank you for clarifying.
The last one I have on there for cultural equipment, that's for a Sand Pro machine. I've asked for it before in the past and denied, and I was told this year to ask for something that we really needed down there. The Sand Pro is a machine that will groom the warning tracks on the baseball fields. It will groom your base pads and stuff like that, so it just makes the park look a lot better. It's definitely gone up in time. When I first got the estimate for this thing, I want to say the machine itself was $13,000, and now the machine itself is $26,000 plus your attachments that you will need to groom the sand with. Let's see. Also included in that is a new mower. The mower at the ball fields it's pretty decrepit now. It gets used every day, sometimes all day long. It's got holes in the decks. It's been in the shop multiple times. It just got out of the shop, I don't know, last month for some engine work on it. Then I have in there for a new truck for the new employee positions that I have. I can probably get away with just getting one truck, and I think we're working on doing that at an auction to try to bring the cost down. I think we have $20,000 for a new truck, but realistically, it'll probably be half of that at the auction.
Historically, it has been stated that we've always bought brand-new vehicles. We've not purchased used. This budget will not allow for us to do that in all areas, and so speaking with Harry, with the nature of the way that they will be around, we believe that we can get a used vehicle instead for their purposes.
It's not guaranteed that you're going to get one at an auction, though, because somebody may go higher than what I'd be willing to pay for one. But we are set up already for that auction.
Anything else?
I'd just like to say that I am not against new playgrounds at Lake June Park either, but if you're going to use your taxpayers' money wisely, it would be, I'd say, in town, in the city limits where the taxpayers are able to use the playgrounds. Out at Lake June Park, like I said, I'm not against it, but it is mostly your county people out there using that, not your taxpayers that are in town, like Alan said, can walk to the playgrounds. We do need them out there, but I would say if you're going to use your taxpayers' money, city limit money, it would be, in my opinion, more feasible to do it at your local parks in town.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
All right. Our next meeting,
August 13th is, our next regular meeting is,
well, no,
yeah,
budget
the
meeting,
budget one is the 13th, Wednesday the 13th, 6 o'clock.
August 13th at 6 o'clock. Okay, before I adjourn, I'll open it up to the public.
I'm Rosemary Heath. I live at 588 Sunset Point Drive, Lake Placid. I pass that park several times every day. It's used, even if it's used for 15, 20 minutes. Some of these parents pick up their children and they go there. They only have maybe 10, 15 minutes, but they play with their children on that playground. No matter what time of day or night, usually there's somebody there. The touch football uses it 3 nights a week, every week. During their game time, they were just finished, last week? They used it the entire summer. These are children most of these children, 79% of your children in this town are economically disadvantaged. This is where they go to play. It's the only place they go where they're not discriminated against. Maybe I'll give you some background. I was one of these children. I didn't speak English. I went to school. People are mean. The only time, what I remember now with my childhood is going to the park with my mom and my dad and our friends and whoever else went, and we weren't discriminated against. People weren't mean to us, but we had a place to go, a place to run and play, and that's what I see in Lake June Park. That's why I'm here every month. These children need a place to go. They need a place where no one is mean to them, a place where they can play, and they just play, the whole family plays. And they're there all the time. Those pavilions are always used. You even have people go there during lunchtime, and they go there to cry. It's the only place where they go to have that solitude where they can. And after a while seeing there, I finally banged on the door because I needed a signature. And you have people that go there for lunch and go to each separate pavilion. They just want to be alone. But I'm there for the children. The children need a place to play. They can walk there. They go there after school. They're there. You just have to look. They might not be there every solitary minute. Like I said, sometimes they only go for 10 minutes, and they push the kids on the swing or they let them go down on the slide. But they're there, and these children need a place to go where they can have fun with their families.
Okay, your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rose, thank you for sharing your story with us. I just want to assure you that when we are looking at the parks, all of them, we are definitely looking at how we can improve the quality of life for everybody who's down there.
But as he said, that's the park that's used all the time. It's the park where the children can walk to.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Carolyn Morrison, 119 Sunset Point Boulevard. I appreciate what Ms. Heath has brought up, because I do think that the children need a little bit more attention in this town, and I know that Ms. Charles and Ms. Eberhardt, when they went out and they were campaigning, that was one of the biggest issues that came up, the lack of events for children. But I just want to say a generality, and I apologize for not understanding this. I thought this was a workshop, so I thought it was a little more interactive, and you've asked for public participation, so that was why I kind of raised my hands a few times. Mr. Mayor, you are the face of this town. You're supposed to represent, facilitate, and run this meeting. I did not see that tonight. I was very disappointed. In the past, I felt the same thing. You're not facilitating and leading this town council. It's being run by Ms. Rodriguez, from my perspective, at least in this meeting. The way you allow a town council member, Ms. Hayes, to speak to Ms. Charles is disgusting. I think it's embarrassing, and I think you as the mayor should be taking care of that. I'll waive the rest of my 3 minutes, but just wanted to bring that up. The agenda, I mean, it lacks, it says nothing. Number 1, proposed budget. Number 2, adjournment. And everything, we had a presentation, we had a 15-minute presentation on business taxes. Why would that not be in the agenda? Anyway, just wanted to voice my disappointment in the way this workshop was run. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the next one because I'll be on vacation, but I will hope to be here on the 27th to, as you guys finalize the budget, of which Ms. Charles brought up a lot of great points tonight. And it doesn't matter when she opens her mouth, just the hatred that I can see just in this general room is sad. Thank you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I hear it from you too, so. But thank you for your comments. All right, any other comments? Hearing none, this workshop's adjourned.